in your mind that you're like, this is where I want to, you will be that. It's inevitable. That's what, to me, the law of attraction. It's not like, I'm just going to think about the Corvette all the time, the Corvette. That's not what it is to me.
Yeah.
That's
super cool, man.
Yeah.
Where are we on, Joey?
We're on.
Yay! So we have this little cool music here that we started.
Look how big my legs look on camera. Oh my God. If I don't stand up straight, I look like I'm 19 feet tall.
I mean, you are pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, your hair and the shoes you wear, that definitely adds some flavor to you.
I was this morning, I was praying that I would look as good as you guys. I was on my knees so long that now they look like this.
Shut up.
This is what happened.
Shut up. Dude, I'm leaving the house and I'm like, bro, for this podcast.
What shade of black is Joel going to wear?
I wear shorts and have like no shoes. And I'm leaving the house today and I'm like, honey, do something with me. Like that.
we met for an important business meeting the other morning, and Alejo showed up in shorts. We're all looking all fly. He showed up in shorts, and then we go. Ironically, this is what real millionaires look like. Is Alejo.
To be fair, I didn't know it was a business meeting until I got there.
It wasn't a business meeting. It turned into that.
It was a breakfast.
It was a fun breakfast, and then we ended up turning into a business meeting. That's what happens when we hang out. You guys, they're like the brothers I never wanted.
We're great, right?
You guys are awesome, man.
Oh man, Prolific Podcast. We are so excited for today.
Yes,
we have the honor, the privilege to be able to be in the room, be able to sit down and have a great conversation with the Joel Meyers. We are so
excited. Not Adam Lambert?
I was waiting for something.
I mean,
the Prolific Podcast means that you guys have a lot of Christ-based listeners, right? People that love 100%. JC like us. And so I feel like everybody's going to be like, is that Colton Dixon?
I mean, dude, I was going to make a Colton joke, but you did
I saved you the time, bro. I was already I was ready to rock and roll.
This is not Colton Dixon, everyone.
No. We get confused for each other on social media often. People will tag. Oh, yeah. People will tag the wrong people. And we made jokes about it on social
Winter
media.
Jam. I'm sorry. This is not Colton Dixon.
When I was on the Huckabee show, that was the joke. That was the joke.
Would we post this podcast and we tag him instead?
That would be really funny. We should make some. You guys should make some kind of. I have way more tattoos than Colton does, and his kids are way better behaved than my kids.
Oh, really?
That's what it looks like.
Dude, I feel like that all the time. I feel like everybody's kids are better behaved than my kids. Do you feel that?
Because you're around your kid. My son is insane. My son's birthday was yesterday, and the fact that we got through the day without him busting his lip or something crazy.
He looked like he was having fun.
But that's that boy energy, bro.
Yeah,
that's busting his lip and like. Yeah. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I love it. There's this Instagram account of like dudes just doing dude stuff and then just like losing it. Yeah. So it's like, like guys like at the top of a mountain kicking a massive rock and then like it takes out a tree and they're like, yeah! Bro, and that's my son.
Yeah.
Like it literally never ends. Like that's just boys, bro.
Yeah.
Boy energy.
My dad said I used to run around so much that he would nail my foot to the floor, so then I just run in circles.
My
like
parents literally used to have to walk me. They'd order food at a restaurant, and they'd have to walk me around the restaurant because I was moving so much. Right. And my dad's like, let's go for a walk. And I'd walk around. Chili's, just all excited. And I do that to my daughter now. Yeah, I do that to my daughter. I'm like, come here, Nova.
And it's like, I have ADHD, OCD, anxiety. I have all the E's.
All the E's.
And my son, I swear, my son is on the spectrum, so he has autism. We think I probably am undiagnosed and was probably, I don't know if that changes. I don't know if you're always that way. I think I think it never goes away.
Honestly, bro, like that's one thing in life I have very little understanding about.
Right. Yeah. I was like, when you and I talked about it a little bit the other day, because we talked about the difference between Asperger's and autism and all of that, because it's a real thing with our son. And, we had to get him tested to see if he had a hearing problem. Really, he just doesn't listen to us. He hears great. He just doesn't listen to us.
He has a listening problem.
He has a listening problem. He hits himself and does all of these things. He lines things up and he's very particular about things. And he really doesn't hear you or look you in the eye very often and all of these things. And my dad has told me, my parents were very hippie, but my dad has told me that I did all of those things when I was little. So it gives me a lot of hope, because I had such a bad speech impediment when I did start speaking. I was 7 or 8. And when I did start speaking, it was so bad. I was like, we're going to go drive in a cow. And my dad's like, you're going to drive in a cow? Like, what are you talking about? But so people always thought
Which is like the best thing, by the way. When kids talk
You're
like
translating,
that. Right?
parents' translation.
But it gives a lot of hope, because I turn into a performer and a professional speaker. And my son My son is, he's saying a word here and there, and he's very, very delayed. He just turned 4 yesterday, but he's very delayed. And so it gives me a lot of hope that, I even named his middle name is Legend.
Come on.
Because I'm like, bro, that's not a joke.
That's his actual middle name.
Yeah, it's River Legend. River Legend of Meyers. Because I was like, I'm going to make sure that you're going to, that I really feel like River, I have a big expectation for him, but I feel like because of all of the disadvantages that he has, I feel like there's something that's going to flip.
Well, I was listening to Jordan Peterson recently, and by the way, love the guy. I'm sure you probably listen to him a lot too. And he was talking about how like autism in at a basic level is really just a heightened interest in things instead of people, right? And so it would make a lot of sense since you're very like. Yeah. We're going to talk
Tim
more
Burton,
about this.
Elon Musk, a lot of these really creative, they're all on the spectrum.
Yep. And high performers too.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, my dad said I would hyper focus on these things he said I could spend 10 hours with a deck of playing cards. And so I got good at the age, I started when I was 6 years old performing, and he said I would be so hyper focused on these things for hours and hours and hours. And that's what it is. We have this inability to experience a lot at once when you get overwhelmed. But like for me, if I'm in a crowd of people, I can get overwhelmed. When I'm on stage in front of people, it's controlled. I'm 100%. That's where I'm supposed to be. 1,000%. I feel more comfortable on stage in front of 1,000 people than standing among 1,000 people hanging out. I still feel okay hanging out with them, but I get overwhelmed very easily.
That's crazy.
And my son River's the same way. So yeah, I like being in the middle of you. This is nice.
Guys, so let's introduce Joel. So he said Joel Myers. It's not Adam Lambert.
That's
not
true.
Dalton Dixon.
Just again to clarify,
you could be his brother.
Yes,
you could be Adam's brother, bro.
Adam Lambert. I love it, man. I'll take that one. He's a stud, bro.
Yeah,
I'll take that. Yeah. We've never met,
but so this awesome dude, man. We met. This is actually very fitting.
Yeah, this is
so our boy hit us up this morning. Said, "Do you want a Starbucks?"
Sponsored by Starbucks.
I thought this through.
But we went to Starbucks here locally, and one day Joel was sitting a few tables over with, which was such a cool sight to see because we were with your wife and with both of your kids.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't do that, and it was hard to miss, not because you look like a famous person.
Because you were chill, like you were dressed.
Yeah,
very
you
chill
guys were just.
I don't remember what I was dressed like, but I definitely remember the
I think you were
day.
still kind of like you still looked like Joel, but what drew my attention to you was the fact that you guys were having like a family affair at Starbucks. Like you had, like you were obviously working, but then like
wife was editing, you were on phone calls.
Your daughter was in the car seat.
Yeah, in the car seat.
She was in the thing.
Yeah.
I remember it's Olivia, right?
It's Olivia.
So then I think something happened. Then Joey made a comment.
I think it was Olivia made like a loud roar or something, and you're like, "I'm so sorry," because we're on the other. I'm like, "Bro, we got kids."
You said we have kids.
Yeah, you're good, bro. Be loud as you want. Party up, girl.
Right.
Because I think at that time either I just had my daughter Nova, or we were about to have like Nova, one of the two.
And I said when you guys said that, I told my wife, I said those guys are Christian guys, and she goes.
So I was going to ask you that.
Yeah,
because I was going to ask you, were you aware of us? Like we were.
No.
You? No. Okay.
No. What do you mean? Like in general?
Like just in the. You know how and you deal with like mentalists and all that
No,
stuff.
I was aware that you guys were there. So the thing that is really weird about me is I've trained myself over the years since I was 6 years old to be hyper aware of everything. So yes, I'm aware that you guys were there. I thought you meant like, did I know of you guys or something like that?
Did you know?
No, I meant like you know how like sometimes you can be in a crowd of people and there are like a few people that stand out.
I was aware that you were there,
right.
And I think what it was your guys. Here's the thing. I'm a big believer that you, without knowing a lot about people, you can see God's energy off people. And I think it's one of those big things that a lot of people who don't know God they go, there's something about that person, but they can't pinpoint what it is.
Right.
And the big similarity with anybody who really has God living in them is you see it. You really see it without even necessarily having conversations or anything like that with the people. And so I could see that radiating off of you guys. I swear to you, this is facts, hard facts. Hardcore. Like I saw it on you guys, and I said, and so I knew right away that I said those guys are Christian guys. And my wife was like, "What are you talking about?" Like she was like, "What?"
And so I'm sitting there. So you guys kind of exchanged, and I just felt like we needed to go and talk to you before we left. Like I just had this, and I felt
That's so rad.
I felt the same thing about you. Like there was there was something about you that was drawing me there. Like I needed to go and talk to you.
That's so interesting. I've never felt like I have that, even though I would like to have that. I've never felt like I exude, you know, like a God shininess about me. Even other friends that you guys have introduced me to, I'm like, they have it. It's like you can see, my dad has always had that. And so my dad's a very conservative and an amazing Christian guy. And my dad has always had that, where you're like, there's something about that guy. For me, I always felt like it's how I look, and maybe because I'm overly outgoing and charismatic because I'm a performer. So I thought that's the thing that people see.
No, there's if I had to describe it, there was, I think I told you a little bit ago, but I think there was a like a good curiosity in you.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you know how like people that are there are some people that have written off God altogether, and so they're just kind of closed and like they're just closed, right?
Right.
But I could tell that there was like a God openness in you, even without us talking. I mean, you guys.
That makes me feel really good that you guys felt like, because that is something that I feel like I do have. I've always struggled with I never really struggled very long with questioning whether or not God exists, because if you seek him, you will 1,000% find him. And there's so much evidence everywhere that it's insanity how much evidence there is. It's crazy. But my struggle was never questioning the validity as much. It was more questioning, like, why do I have to struggle with so many hard, difficult things? Because I've experienced so much death. My daughter's named after my sister who died. You know, and I felt like God said someday you're gonna have a daughter and name her. You know, name her after your sister. And you know, I've struggled with so much loss. I've lost multiple members of my family in the same week from different causes. I've struggled with all of these pains. Things being in the entertainment industry is as screwed up as you think it is. And as anybody thinks, it is that screwed up. And so I've struggled with so much, I think, and because I'm such a seeker and that's part of what I do, I'm trying to ascertain truth in my own way. I'm so interested in people and how people think psychologically. You know, you could identify me as a magician. You could identify me as an illusionist or a mentalist. You could identify me as, somebody who uses psychology to tap into your heads, and that is ultimately how I identify it. I'm trying to, you know, when you meet people, you don't meet them, you meet their representative, right? It's like, you know, you immediately break down. When I perform for somebody in any facility, in any way, whether it's on stage or right up close like this, I automatically break down those walls, and they're being themselves immediately. And it's something I always loved, and you see who they really are right away. I don't know why I got in that direction. Oh, because I feel like my thing was always questioning God's choices, because I always felt like, okay, I'm made in his image.
Not his existence, but his intentions.
Yeah, because I'm like, I mean, there's been moments like anybody that I'm like, okay, he doesn't speak with an audible voice, but there have been times where I know that he's speaking to me. So because he doesn't speak with an audible voice, do I automatically question it? But then you think about like the movie, you guys have watched The Christmas Carol because it's Christmas time. So you guys have seen that. And the first thing that Scrooge says when the ghost comes is he goes, any one of my senses could be messed with. Like you might just be an undigested bit of beef. And that's what would happen if any atheist saw God. They would, like, because an atheist goes, if he's right in front of me, then I'll believe him. I'm like, no, you won't.
No, you won't.
Which is actually a story that Jesus tells about a man that was in, it was literally the holding place in Hades. And it literally says that the man from Hades could see the people in the holding place. And they're like, well, hey, can you tell my family? Can you go and tell them? And he's like, even if I go, any good. You wouldn't, if they're not believing the living, they will not believe the dead. And so it's crazy the pictures that we have that no matter, sometimes there's no convincing, I believe there's no convincing anyone. Like I believe there literally truly is a moment that has to take place that is a revelation. Like that is the only way that someone can truly
like your eyes are open.
You have to be seeking though. You have to be constantly seeking. The one thing that I do have in my corner for some reason is because I love psychology, I love people, I love how the brain works, and that's a big reason why I do what I do. I'm also a performer, so it leaned into, you know, I love acting, I love music, I love every type of performing, but magic and mentalism and this kind of performance art I've been able to do it because I love how people think. I love the psychology of it. And the fact is I've always been seeking truths. And magic and performing magic has been a great way for me to ascertain these truths and meeting people and realizing how easy it is to be deceived. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Bro,
and the fact that people think you can't deceive me is the biggest benefit that I have.
Wow.
It's the biggest thing because I go, you're deceived every day. You don't know that car you bought is a lemon at the dealership. You don't know that, they actually, this one, the phone company is charging an extra $2 a month because of this one little thing that they snuck in. You're deceived every day.
Yeah.
The biggest lie that you're believing is the fact that that you can't be deceived.
Wow. Okay, so just real quick, I want to ask you more about that.
It's gnarly.
Pause.
No, man,
it's gnarly.
No, what I love is number one, we're truly getting into it. But number two, he's touched base on who he is. So this is a man. If you don't know who Joel is, you need to go check him out. His social media and everything that
Our
he is.
introduction probably
his
can't
introduction.
say enough about like just how successful he is.
And what the Lord's allowed him to be part of. And you may have seen him on a cruise. You never know. You may have seen him out of college. You never know. You may have seen him on TV and all this stuff. And so we met at Starbucks, had a great connection. We started a conversation, talked through a bunch of different things. And then we just ended up hanging out a few times and a couple different moments, right?
Well, we found out at that Starbucks that he has a tattoo that says almost famous, but he is actually famous.
Yeah, he is actually
famous.
So
he's been on all these TV shows. We're going to list him here on the podcast. But something that we really enjoyed about, I really enjoyed about, and I told you this off camera, just how down to earth you were and how just open to conversation you were. And I think I think the door was just open, as I said, like openness to God. That door was open for us to have like a real life conversation. A lot of times you can meet somebody, of the success that you have, of the let's say status or just what level or class or whatever, and then not have the ability to have conversations that pertain to every human being, right? And something that was really, really cool about that meeting, something else I felt like when we were meeting is that I felt the Holy Spirit really telling me to open the door to talk about Christ and talk about God with you. Not that I thought that you didn't have him, but just that was part of that day's agenda, right? For us to talk. And so it ended up becoming like, So anyway, so Joel, you deal with deception every day. So tell us a little bit about your job, everyday job. Tell us a little bit about
how about he shows us some of his
I could show you. So I'll show you as I'm telling you. So basically, I use natural means to make it look like I have supernatural abilities, but I'm very open with the fact that it's not real, that I'm using natural means to make it look like I do have these abilities, that people by the end of it, they question how much of that is, I'm using things like psychology, sleight of hand, misdirection, suggestion, a little bit of showmanship. I morph it all together to create this illusion that I have these abilities. So on television shows, like I'm on a TV show called Masters of Illusion every Monday night, and on that TV show, I'm doing things with audience members throughout the thing where I'm, reading their minds, telling them people that they're thinking of, doing things like that. Like if I told you guys,
that's crazy to me.
There's so many natural ways to where you can do this, and I'll tell you first. I'll do some of it for you right now, and I'll give you an idea of what it's like, because I know you guys. I don't know if you guys have ever seen me do anything live. You've seen clips and TV.
So
clips.
No, there's one time when we went to Circles, we had dinner. You did like a one thing for the server.
You're messing around.
Okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So one time.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, so basically, what what this is I'm gonna do like, okay. I also like it to feel really organic, right? Okay. So I want to do something where, like right now, Alejo, if I told you, I want you to hold your hand in front of you. Hold your hand in front of you like this.
And which hand?
Either hand.
Either hand? Okay.
Yeah, left hand. Okay, all right, left hand. So are you left-handed?
No, I'm right-handed.
Right-handed, okay. So left-handed. So imagine that in your hand there, in your fingers, is a deck of playing cards, okay?
Okay.
So it's an invisible deck. So we'll start with literally nothing. We're just going to use, your mind and see how we can go with this. So imagine that in the deck of playing cards.
My brain, dude.
I know. There's 52 cards in the deck of cards, right? Out of those 52 cards, there's red cards, black cards. Normally when I tell somebody to just think of a playing card, which I want you to do.
Okay.
And then at any point you can start changing your mind. Now, here's the thing. When I ask somebody to think of a playing card, guys always think of the same card. They always think of the ace of spades. It's usually the first one. Okay. I can tell by the way you're nodding that you probably didn't think of the ace of spades. But then the other one is like a king. Women tend to think of queens. Don't think of a card that I can know. Think of a number card, like a 2, a 3, a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Number card, heart, diamond, club, spade. Do that, okay? You got one in your mind?
Yep.
Joey, I want you to think of maybe a person, maybe somebody that you're close to, somebody that maybe has had an impact on you in your life. They can be related to you. It doesn't matter. They don't have to be related to you. Just somebody that you're really close to, but that is important that it's somebody that you're close to, okay? Cool. Okay. You didn't think that long. You just went right to somebody.
You know what's really funny about this? I'm the guy that likes to be.
I love it.
Joey's very skeptical.
No. I love it, but I'm such a figure outer.
So am I. I get it. I get it. But here's the thing: with what you're doing, a lot of this is just going to be. We're not using any props. I'm just going to be reading your body language and seeing how you guys are reacting to it, and I'll react in turn. It might not. The ending of what I'm doing right now might not be. You look hilarious. You're just like,
I'm not letting these cards go.
I'm not letting this. Why don't you give them a quick shuffle too? Give them a quick shuffle.
I'm horrible at shuffling, but
I believe in you in this case, Alejo. It would help if you took him out of the box first.
Yeah, you gotta. Come on, there it is.
You got it?
Cool. You dropped one.
I'm really bad at that. So this part is the hardest.
Did you have a playing card in your mind? You got
I did, yeah.
Okay, now imagine the playing card. You've had the same play. You haven't changed your mind.
I haven't changed it.
You could have. And you could up to this point still.
I could.
But you don't want to.
Do you want me to?
Do you want to?
Sure.
Do you really want? See, we don't even know until you say. Only you know. That's the best part about this.
Let me go back to the one I like.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now imagine reversing it, placing it in the invisible deck the other way, to where now it's facing the other direction. So only one card is facing upside down in that deck.
One card.
Okay. You got it?
Dude, I'm so afraid.
Now, Alejo, imagine I have a deck of playing cards right here. Imagine that this deck of playing cards here is. Imagine that is the deck of playing cards that was in your mind.
My heart's literally racing right now.
And now, Alejo, if this works, then what should happen is whatever card that you were thinking of, which you still haven't said it out loud, but imagine that the playing card that you're thinking of is the playing card that is reversed in that deck that I set up before I even got in here.
That'd be insane.
And you're thinking about somebody you're close to, right? Somebody. That's all we know.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And you thought about them right away.
Yeah.
I'm literally nervous right now.
Okay, so name out loud, what is the name of the playing card that you're thinking of, Alejo?
The name is 4 Diamond.
4 of Diamonds.
We'll change that.
Check this out.
Yeah, show it to the camera.
Stop it, bro. If you have that right, I'm going to lose it.
I want you to see every single card in here is face
Stop
up.
it.
Can we see that?
Yeah, I think we're good.
There's only one face down card. Alejo, grab that.
Bro,
which one did you say?
4 Diamond.
Go ahead, take a look.
I hate you.
Show
Look at that. So crazy. How did you do that, dude? What?
I like the applause cue.
Applause cue.
Bro, that's insane to me.
It's weird.
So good.
That's insane to me.
It's weird. We'll do a couple things throughout the thing, but this is the kind of thing. This is a psych. This is. Am I influencing you? Did I influence you? I didn't tell you anything we were doing ahead of time.
No,
I didn't say this is what we're gonna do.
No, I literally thought he's not gonna get it.
Right.
That's why, like, on my head, I'm like, and I almost changed my card too. Right. Yeah, but
that's the thing. You didn't, but you could have. You've been thinking of the same person, though, right?
Yeah.
You've consistently. Why have you been thinking of this person, Joey? Is this person that? Are you related to this person?
No,
you're not, right?
No.
I already know you're not related to this person, but I know this is a person that has a great impact on you for quite a while, right? Yep. This is a person that you look up to, like a mentor, right?
Yep.
This is somebody who influences you and you talk to on a regular basis.
Not as much as I would like to, but yeah.
But at a semi-regular basis, right? You get a lot of influence from this guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a guy.
It's a guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are you okay? Your fish is in your bed.
No,
all right,
good.
we're gonna.
He doesn't. This is what I know about Joey. He doesn't actually want to be.
I'm gonna use a blue deck of cards for this to figure this out. This isn't a card trick, but this is gonna help me connect with who you're thinking of. I'm gonna riffle down the side. First, I want you to see all the cards are different. Now, this isn't like a card magic trick, but we're gonna use the cards for this. So I'm gonna riffle down the side. Joey, say stop anywhere you want.
Stop.
Well, I can see that one. We're gonna take the one that I can't see. Actually, in fact, here, hold those. I can actually see it. What card is that there? 9
of diamonds.
9 of diamonds. Watch this. I'm gonna rip a corner. I want you to hear it.
Yeah,
you see that? See the corner there?
Yeah.
Watch the corner. I'm gonna do this really slow right in the camera. Watch. You see the corner go? You keep this person close
He didn't. I love that.
Joey, you keep this person really close to your heart, right? The person that you pretty close to your. When the corner disappears, it goes somewhere. Joey, reach into your pocket there, close to your heart. You might have felt it. Did you feel it hit?
I should have never used son of a gun.
Show the camera there. Show the camera. See it in the pocket. Bring it over here, Joe. We're gonna make sure that.
How in the world, dude? This is insane, bro.
Hold up. Things are about to blend back together. And look at that. It's so stinking stupid.
Dude, you are insane.
I hate you.
Hey, Joey, you're thinking about Jim, right? Are you thinking about Jim?
Bro, and I knew it too.
Look at him turning red. Alejo also, when you said Jim, Alejo was like, I bet she's thinking about Jim.
I knew it was him too. I knew you were thinking.
Yeah.
Bro, what? That's insanity, dude.
He's in my head.
He's in my head.
Get out of my head.
Bro, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Bro, you're incredible.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
this is a combination of things that I've been doing this stuff since I was 6 years old, and it's a combination of methods that I'm using. And I didn't say you need to think of Jim.
Yeah. Nope.
Beforehand, I didn't say what I did. I didn't
Yeah.
say okay, you're going to think of 4 diamonds. There's no preparations for these things. These things happen organically, and while we're doing it.
Wow, dude, I am mind blown. By the way, so I love to be mind blown.
Oh, I love it too.
But no, I know he loves it too, but I just love because he's always trying to. He's probably looking at your hands, trying to figure. Like I'm looking at your hands, but I'm not like, let me find this guy out, kind of thing. Which a lot of people are.
Right.
But
I enjoy it because I love. He's so good at it. That's what I love. That's what I love about him more than anything. Is he's just so good at it, and
so there. I think that everybody has gifts, and you got to find what your gift is. And I do think that we all have these abilities. I really feel like I always have been a performer, and I've always loved performing, and so I have always felt like I could do pretty much anything. Like I love. Movies, I love music. There's so many bands and there's so many films, and I love television. I love directing. There's so many aspects of being able to express yourself, because we're all just artists right now. What we're creating, this is something that wasn't here before. We're creating this podcast that wasn't here before, and talking about things we didn't know what we were going to talk about. Even when I do something like that for you guys, I've done this stuff before, but it's different every time because it's different people. The reactions are different. Even when I do something for somebody like Al Pacino or Jennifer Lopez or Brad Pitt or whoever, a famous person, they react the exact same. It's the exact same kind of feel with these things. And the interest ends up, some people are more like they let the magic wash over them, like Alejo, and then some people are more like Joey, who's like, I really want to analyze and see, what is behind the curtain here and see what this could possibly be. Which I'm more like that.
I love the skill. I love the talent, because again, it's not something that is just, you didn't just happen onto it. Like that's what I love more than anything.
Also, sometimes, Joey, something that you might be fascinated by. I performed this event in LA for this writers event, and it was like the Oscars. And the method for what I did in that, I feel like was cooler than the trick. There are some times where the method is cooler, and sometimes where the effect is cooler. And so that's something I really love. Also about what I do is it's so fascinating because sometimes the methods are cooler than the effects. And sometimes the effects.
And you're amusing yourself.
Sometimes.
Have you ever just genuinely laughed because you did something that was in your eyes so simple, but this person lost their marbles?
No. I never laugh at somebody for
not like after, not like at them.
Like you're stupid. You're
funny how you think we're idiots.
No, I mean, I there's methods. Sometimes the most shocking things can be the simplest methods, and then sometimes shocking things can be really advanced methods. I did something for Steve-O from Jackass where we filmed for like 5 hours in his kitchen, and before we were really getting the meat of him reacting. And there's some of the things I would think that he would react to, he didn't react to because he's like, I would stick a needle in my hand, or I would, do something crazy like with my eyeball, like you just did. But then whenever, you tell him to think of a combination of numbers while he's holding your wallet and he opens it up and there's a lottery ticket and all the numbers he thought of match the number, the lottery ticket, things like that.
Loses marbles.
Or like the thing that's on YouTube of me with Steve-O is me, if you find it on YouTube, it's me having him take a playing card, and then he autographs his name on the playing card, and he puts it back in the deck. He shuffles it, and then we throw the deck of cards towards his kitchen table, and inside a sealed can is his signed card. Kind of like the thing with the thing in the pocket, kind of.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then he freaks out in that. So,
so let me ask you, bro. So what is something? So you said, I love that you said something that you're thinking that you cannot be deceived is your greatest asset for like doing what you do.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things, not one of my favorite things, but one of the easiest things that makes, doing something like, what I do. I don't consider what I'm doing for people some people might say you deceive people for a living. That's not true because I'm very honest with people. I say I'm a magician, which automatically means I'm going to lie to you, and then I do it well. So I say I'm going to lie to you, and then I do. I'm not saying I'm a wizard or a medium. A medium is a deceiver because they're doing what I'm doing, but they're saying it's real. So that's different. They're deceiving you for a living. They're charging you all this money, saying we're talking to your dead loved one. Like if I decided to go the other way with you thinking of Jim, I could have said, think about a person that you're close to who's passed away and said, this person's telling me something, a message. And I could be using all my powers for evil and not good and lying about it. And none of it is true. So, but
you probably get paid a lot more for that, right?
That's the biggest difference. That's the big thing in people who are mediums and psychics. They're doing exactly what I'm doing, but they're charging a lot of money saying where they're using your willingness to suspend your disbelief. They're using it against you. So I'm coming in and you guys, Alejo's before we're filming, he's like, I can't wait. I'm going to see this guy who does magic on television. I'm going to see him do stuff for me in real life. I'm so excited. You're coming into it like that. So you're coming in willing to suspend your disbelief. You're more skeptical, which is, I believe, how most people are like you. I'm like you. I don't, but the fact that you believe that Joey, because you are more willing to suspend your disbelief. So when you watch a movie with, a Martin Scorsese movie or something with Robert De Niro in it, you know that Robert De Niro was also in Meet the Parents, and now he's in, a Taxi. But in Taxi, you're willing to suspend your disbelief and go, no, I believe that that's the character that I'm watching. I have trouble with that. I go, that's Robert De Niro. Joey might be more like me, where you're going, that's Brad Pitt, but I got to pretend like he's
You're a different
in
person.
Ocean's 11 and he's this thief.
That's interesting. You know why that is? Because for me, what's most valuable is the story. It's not the character itself.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? So, for example, when it comes to you, like, I actually don't think in my brain, I don't think, oh, this like guy on TV, like what he's doing. You know what I think in my mind, which makes me really excited is like, you're my friend. Yeah. And I look at you and you're so good at something that I'm like, I just can't wait to see you be that good at something. Does that make sense?
Let me ask you a question. What made you get into it? Like what age? When did you start?
I was tricked into it.
Because I know you mentioned your dad, you really enjoyed cards. I know you mentioned that already, but like what was, I enjoyed cards, but I never thought about going down that field. So what was like the thing?
I never, when I was a little kid, I was never, I don't remember starting it because I was never really had the choice to start in it, if that makes sense. Because I was so little, I don't have a lot of memory starting in it. What I do know is my dad was very encouraging and always said, I always felt like, which I think as little boys, you're open to the idea of like, I can be a professional basketball player or an actor, or I can be a ninja, And so I was like, my dad was like, no, you can do those things. So my dad was very much encouraging to where I was like, oh, I can do any of those.
That's so powerful.
So if I was like, I want to be a pirate, he would be like, there's probably a way to be a pirate.
I feel like your transition to pirate is not very far.
It's not very far. I'm a peg leg away. But yeah,
I have scurvy.
Yeah, I got enough skull tattoos. But when I was a kid, my dad was very encouraging, and my dad used to do children's ministry, and whenever he would travel with children's ministry, he would do these little tricks and combined them with his message.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he also was a ventriloquist, and he had a really high end dummy that a guy made him that ended up being a famous puppet designer that we didn't know at the time. But he gifted my dad this for his ministry. So my dad traveled with he called it Meyers Family Ministries, and he would travel. And his brother is a big pastor who also did like Jesus productions, and he'd bring the whole church in. So he would show up at a church, and they would do the plays like like Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames, kind of stuff. So my dad and my uncle did those kinds of things. So my dad had some magic in his little arsenal, and he would be like, showing me how to do this stuff. But my dad would be very encouraging because he would be like, with anything, if you practice a lot at it and you really dedicate yourself to it, you could do it. So then what was crazy was we would travel everywhere because my dad was got out of ministry, started doing traveling sales, and he would do wholesale sales to retailers. And so we would travel around to the most touristy areas. And when I was a kid, I thought, to perform, you just get up. If I saw a platform, I'd go, that's a stage, and I'd get up and perform.
Just get started.
So when I was 8 and 9, I would put a boombox out and do street performing. And I didn't know at the time that's what I was doing. So I would be in Times Square. My dad would leave me in Times Square at 8 years old. He would leave me in Times Square.
Dude, that's amazing.
Because
90s, right?
What's that?
90s, right?
It was the 90s.
Come on, that's why.
So my dad would leave me in the early 90s.
Have you seen August Rush before?
Oh, yeah.
So he's like the magician version of that.
Yeah, so he would leave me, and I would be in Santa Monica Boulevard. I would be in Key West, Florida. The first time he realized he could leave me, though, was whenever he lost me in Times Square, and then he saw a crowd around somebody, and it was me with a deck of playing cards, and it was like a touristy deck I stole from a store. I stole it, and I walked out. I was like 7, and I was doing magic for people. And I had a crowd. I had 30 people around me. I don't remember this, but my dad said that's how he found me, and so I
don't remember that.
No, I don't remember a lot of these things. Like I remember little flashes of it, but then my dad started, because my dad was always a hustler businessman.
Yeah.
That's why I have this tattoo that says hustle, because my dad was always like a hustler. He made stuff happen out of nothing, kind of thing. And so my dad would encourage me everywhere we'd go and tell the hotels, my son could perform in your lobby, and we'd get a free week stay and things like that.
Wow.
So then my dad started going, well, we can make money doing this. He can make. So he would make sure I made money, but
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Cool
So then I would
son.
do corporate things as a kid, and the novelty was always, I was 10, 11 years old, and I'd be like, my hair slicked back, put my brother in boxes and cutting him in half. And my dad would be very encouraging. And I practiced religiously. I would practice for 10 hours a day at stuff like playing cards. Wow. And my dad would say, whenever I would take a deck of playing cards and do these moves and these things with the cards, my dad would say, these are all things that like chess or basketball or any of these things. He'd be like, you have to be the best at it if you really want to stand out. So it wasn't just magic. I was good at every sport. I'm not bragging. It was because I never, ever, my dad, if I said I was bored, I would get in trouble.
Bro, so
he would send me in my room with the playing cards and go play with them until you're not bored anymore. Like it wasn't like in trouble, like stupid in trouble. He would be like, "You're never going to be bored,
right?
ever."
Like what you have.
So I was always doing everything.
So
I played competitive every sport. I played every instrument. I did singing. I did gymnastics. I did ballet. I'm not joking.
Yeah,
things that you did ballet. Like I was like, my dad was like, "Try it." He's like, "You're going to try everything and figure out what you love." So now. Praise God, I'm good. It's awesome that I'm good at it, a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like we were ice skating with my 10-year-old, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I'm skating backwards. I played ice hockey for 5 years, so I'm skating backwards and hockey stopping and all this. And he's like, "What is this?
Who are you?"
He's like, "Yeah." He's like, well, "How come I can't do that?" And I'm like, "You got to do everything, bro."
Were you homeschooled?
Yeah,
You were. So
did you not know that?
I did not
This
know
is
that.
why we have a unique connection.
But it's very.
You were homeschooled too?
Yeah.
Oh,
my whole life. Yeah.
And they always say that people like us are not outgoing.
Come on.
And you're like one of the most outgoing people I know.
You and I both.
Yeah, you're very, very charismatic and personable.
You know,
and
so
that's
funny. You guys were homeschooled. You're probably way more extroverted, way more outgoing than I am. And
I feel like you're outgoing too.
but not like you guys. Like you guys are.
Well, I am.
Do you feel like you have to put more effort into it?
I do. I feel like I glean. Well, I have my days. Like there are some days where I just wake up with a spark in my a little
twinkle in my eye.
You always have a twinkle in your eye. It's adorable.
But there are days where I have to really, really try.
Right.
And I feel like to you guys, it just kind of comes natural to be like, to have charisma and be charming and all that stuff. Where some days I'm like, sometimes I'm just a butt. Like sometimes I'm just like,
You're
I call him a cat.
There's some
or
nice
a golden
butts
retriever.
out there, though.
I really do. I think it's like you and I do have something that we just genuinely enjoy connecting with people. Like we enjoy understanding people. Like you enjoy stories. You understand. Like, dude, the stories you've told about the people you've met and where you've been and the connectivity. Even you talking about that from New York. Like all like you
That's a beautiful
you're just
story,
the
bro.
details and the stories of who you are. Like, and maybe it does come from being. Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's weird connections with a lot of that stuff. Like, years down the line when I was about 14 and I'd been performing and knowing that this is what I was doing, because I've never not known what I was going to do. I've always been like, I'm going to be a performer and I'm going to do magic. So when I was 14, my mom, my sister both passed away from different causes. My mom was in a car. My sister was hit by a car, and my mom died a week later because she had been struggling with breast cancer for 2 years. So my sister died in the same week from different causes. And I remember whenever my sister got hit by the car, my mom was on her deathbed, and I remember thinking, well, God's not going to take my mom. My sister just died. And it was such a traumatic, horrific experience that all of that happened. But there were so many God people around us, and my dad always said, you give and take away, but my heart will choose to say, blessed be your name. And my dad would say these things that have impacted me to this day, to where there's only been two men I've ever seen like this in my life. My dad and one of our close friends who's this big movie producer who's, it's kind of ironic because we didn't know him because I was in the entertainment industry. We knew him independently of that. He just happens to be a director. He wrote for the TV show Home Improvement.
Wow.
And his name's Daryl Campbell, and he was a good friend of ours for many years. He still is a close friend, and he just lost his son about a year ago, and his son was a good friend of mine growing up. And I talked to him, and these guys, that's where you see God. Mm-hmm. Mm. Do you hear me? Mm. You see God in those kinds of moments because we have children, us three. Mm-hmm. If something happened to one of my kids at this point in my life, I'm not there yet, but I strive to be, and I want to be there with all that I am, and I'll pray to be at the point where I can say that no matter what happens in life, no matter what it is, what is it, the Mercy Me song, Even If,
yes.
Where it's like, even if, I don't remember the exact words, I was listening to it on the way over here, but it's even if, no matter what is thrown your way, you still put God first. You don't even have to understand it. And so when my sister died, and my dad said, his motto still, my dad's gone through a lot. I always joke around that my dad's like Job, because my dad's been through so much crap. And so even if, my dad went through this stuff, he's able to say, I'm grateful for the 7 years I had with Olivia, my sister. So I'm grateful. Could you imagine? How old is your son?
I can't. 3.
Yeah.
3, and yours 2.
Yeah, turning 2 here.
Could you imagine being like, I'm grateful for those 3 years? My son, we struggle with him hitting himself because he's on the spectrum and screaming in public places. Extremely embarrassing at times. And traumatic and scary, and then you can't. What are we going to do? We can't go out. We can't do anything. And I'm I don't like being at home all day long.
Yeah.
And so, but we struggle with taking them out and stuff. But it's like, I'm so grateful for this time that I've had up to this point. Can you be that? Can you have that level of conviction to where you can say,
Yeah, those are the lyrics. Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to sing when there's nothing to bring me down, but what will I say when I'm held to the flame like I am right now? I know you're able, and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. They say it only takes a little faith to move a mountain. Well, good thing. A little faith is all I have right now. Man, how many times, dude? I've gone through that so many times where I'm like, the only faith I have is the ability, the thing that God put in us to seek Him, to where we know that He's there.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all. All I know is that He's there. But why am I going through this? And if He created me in His image, He should be able to relate to these feelings. So my big issue has always been in those moments. Not always, but there's been many times where I've been very angry at God, going, "What is going on?" But it's like I'm talking to Him though. Like I'm expressing it. You
have somebody to ask,
and He's not afraid of it. That's like the most beautiful thing, regardless of the king that we serve, is He is not afraid of your questioning. He's not afraid of your fear. He's not afraid of your frustration at Him. Like, King David, literally people look at King David from Psalms and who he was and stuff like that. It's like, dude, he's bipolar. Like David, literally in the same breath, the same psalm, the same song, in a sense, he'd be like, I can't believe, God, you're so far away. Why don't you hear me? Blah, blah. Then he would shift and he would say, oh, but soul, why are you downcast?
Right.
And that's a sign of honesty.
And it's actually the sign of David's soul, of it's actually the representation of, us as a 3-part being, flesh, spirit, and soul, right? And you're seeing the flesh, which is the exhausted, I can't believe, when I went through my miscarriage and when I lost my best friend 100 yards away from me in a motorcycle accident, all of these little moments, it was like, I've encountered a lot of death, not in the extreme of you have, but we've all,
well, everybody's scenario is personal.
And dude, I remember the moment as we were going through the miscarriage, and I was like, Lord, you're still king. You're still on the throne. Yeah. You're still there. And I trust you, and I'm exhausted, and I'm weeping. I have no comfort for my wife. You are the comforter. When I lost my best friend, I had to call I lost one of my best friends, and I had to call his brother, which is my best friend, and tell him his brother passed away. And the weight that I felt in that, and all of these things, like dude, there's just stuff that I'm like, God, you're the only one. You're the only, I cannot picture people that are truly don't believe that there is a great comforter, that even though there's all this wickedness, even though there is this disease, even though there is all these storms, there's all this stuff, that in reality, there's actually, there's someone that talks about, if there is such a great darkness, there has to be such a great light. Yeah. And that concept of there is a great king, and because of our own decisions from Adam and Eve, we are dealing with sin, disease, sickness, death, all this stuff. But praise God, praise the King of Kings, that death has no more sting, that there's a place that all tears will be wiped away, that sickness and disease will have no more authority and no more place. Praise God, in these things. And man, walking through that stuff,
Dude, within what I do, I always say there's nothing's truer than the lie you tell yourself, and it's
say that again.
Yeah, bro. Nothing's truer than the lie you tell yourself because it's facts. Because what happens is people. I have a good friend who's an atheist who is always scared when we drive past a cemetery, and because he's like, that's where you end up. So what happens is
the end. It's
well,
the end
what you do is what you do, you have to just try to not acknowledge the fact that you're going to die, and people just ignore it because they go, that's too dark, it's too much for me to think about, too heavy. So people don't want to think about it. Now my sister was 7. Your friend was how old?
He was 16.
7 years old. My mom was 42. And then some people are 80 or 90. But either way, the only choice you have with that is to not just choose. I'm just not going to think about it at all because I'm scared of it and I don't know what's going to happen and all of this. So this is what people do. I think a lot of times they say they don't want to think about it. They choose to not think about it. And I'm like, how do you not at the very basic level, even if you don't ultimately care about yourself, what about the people around you, your kids or your spouse or the people around? Does it concern you in any way that our time is so limited?
Come on, bro.
So do you think that having an understanding that there is an end date, that you'll actually enjoy the journey more than trying to stop the end date?
Say that again?
So do you think because you have a realization that there is an end date to life?
Days are short.
Like days are short, days are numbered, we're withering grass, right? Like these things, right? Because you have that, do you feel like you actually can enjoy the journey?
No, I think that some people, I think maybe that might be a gift that you have. I feel like I've always struggled. I think because I'm in the entertainment industry, so eyes are constantly on me. I constantly have to live up to an expectation of myself that I've created for myself for some stupid reason. Men already have the need to be seen and be recognized. And then I have this extreme expectation of myself that I'm like, I have to be on TV all the time. I have to be in front of people. I have to make a lot of money and all of these things because for whatever reason, you tell yourself these things and it's a constant struggle. So I've always dealt with, I have anxiety and OCD and ADHD and all of these things, but I also have dealt with levels of depression because, I think a big thing that you find and that I'm grateful for this aspect of it that I can share with other people because there's so many people who are not Christians who when they meet me and they find out, I know friends in the entertainment industry that hate Christians and they think and they want to be my best friend. Well, why?
Why do you think they hate Christians?
Well, because of how they've been, maybe they're gay and they, they're persecuted by the church because we make it about laws and things. And the Jesus of the real Jesus is not who the church has made him into. I think there's going to be an awakening. Jelly Roll said that on a podcast recently. Jelly Roll's a Christian. Alice Cooper is a Christian. Some of these people that were like, that's not the version of, I don't look or seem like my look on social media and online and everything is not the look of what people would think is a Christian. But that's, Jesus was not the man that churches have turned him into. I think that's why. I think Jesus came for the sinners, man. He came for, Jesus was talking about a prostitute when he said, he who has no sin casts the first stone. He was talking about a prostitute. Jesus was hanging, Mary,
in front of him.
Mary Magdalene. Dude, these were not, people that like, Saul was not this guy, we make it like, you just said, who was it? David had,
it was like bipolar.
These are, the man after God's own heart was a mess.
Yeah. What?
We're not, the church isn't a mess. We're all perfect. And it's like, I don't want to be, I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in being a part of that. I'm interested in people just like me. We're broken. I'm a mess. I've done every bad thing you can do. I've done it all and in my life. I'm not proud of it, but I know that it's added to my story of who I'm supposed to be, the man I'm supposed to be. What kind of example am I going to be for my kids if I can't tell them any true life scenarios of this is what happens when you delve into that? This is, you've got to experience these things. I think for me, I had to experience these things to find out it's not the way personally.
Well, and I think too, like, because everybody's wrestle with God is different, right? So for example, I haven't, you wrestle with God's intentions, with like the death of your sister and your mom, which by the way, I want to read this verse to you because this verse gave me a lot of hope and maybe you can send this to your friend, the director, but this is Isaiah 57 verses 1-2. It says, I read this one day and I was like, it was like a hidden, like I'd never seen this before. It says, good people pass away. The godly often die before their time, but no one seems to care or wonder why. Right? Obviously, you've been wondering why for a long time.
Right.
Right? No one seems to understand that God is protecting them from the evil to come. For those who follow godly paths will rest in peace when they die. I never read that before about like God's protection.
That's a verse?
That's a verse.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, Isaiah 57, 1 through 2. And it talks about,
Surprised I haven't heard that more. That's pretty heavy, good. That's good
It's
words.
truth. Well, that's the hardest part.
Like,
Even
imagine like God, like, I mean, like what I read there is like, well, like, what if God was protecting Olivia from things that were far harder to go through than death itself?
You're right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we've thought about, you analyze those kinds of things, and that's
what that's suggesting is all I'm saying. And
here's what I find, because we're going to constantly search for, like, believe me, it was a huge thing in our hometown of Columbia, Missouri, this small town, whenever my sister died like that in such a traumatic way, and everybody heard about it, and it was such a traumatic thing. So everybody questioned and said things like, maybe he was protecting her, maybe because your mom was supposed to pass, that she wouldn't have been able to handle that. Now, so here's the realization I constantly come back to, because there's so many things that we won't know and won't figure out, and especially as seekers, I'm a mentalist, an illusionist, and a magician. I do these things that show that I'm constantly trying to find answers and try and dissect things and ask questions and figure out how people think and psychology and all of this. And the fact is just because we don't have the answers doesn't mean that God isn't sovereign, and it doesn't mean that God isn't in it all in some way. What if we gamble our whole eternal salvation on a question like, why are kids born with, here's a big one, Stephen Fry, Stephen Fry, very famous in England, and he's a great writer. Stephen Fry said, a guy asked him in an interview, what if you're wrong and you get there and God is there? And he goes, I'm going to be very upset. I'm going to say, bone cancer in children. What is the matter with you? How did you? And I'm like, dude, you're gambling your eternal salvation on a question that you might not even have to ask. What if we get in front of God and we just know the answer and we go, it's that simple that I almost gambled my eternal salvation on this thing that made me angry, understandably so. Right. Could you imagine if our children were born with something like that? People are dealing with it. Right. People are. I know performers right now that their son has cancer and they're a young kid. Yep. Why? I don't know. Yeah. But are you going to gamble your eternal salvation on a question that might be that quick to answer? That God just gives you the realization this is what it is.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, bro, because
that's been a big struggle with me, man, for so many years.
Well, it's
how
real.
Can God allow that?
It's because we're seeing it as a time blip. We're seeing that these, let's just call it 90 years that we have is all we have. And so when we see it in such a specific time frame, some people will gamble eternity because they don't think eternity is like, do you like the thought process? Like we just had someone on our podcast. Like it's not even a thought that like there's actually something bigger than what's happening. Most of the time,
we live in a world where everything ends. An eternal world is non-existent.
And like with my eyes, right? Like you in reality play the game with what I see with my eyes.
Right.
And so in reality, what are the things?
Well, I'm using what you can't see.
Correct. And so what are the things that the enemy, the devil, is messing with us that we don't see? Number one. Number two, what are the things that God, it's not that he's hiding, but maybe he's in plain sight, but we just don't acknowledge that he's there right now. Right. Like how many moments, like again, you're doing the tricks right in front of us, and yet we just don't see.
Because I'm using elements that you can't see against you. I'm using the things that are in
which
your...
is
Yeah.
Like
or for us,
right? They're in reality, right? Like you're doing something for me, but I just don't acknowledge that you're doing something for me.
Yeah.
And so
it's like I have to. For example, I'll give you an example of an element that I use for my son that I hide from him. So for a little while, the control remote for the TV was not something he was aware of that existed. Now, the way I use that is for his benefit or against his benefit, right? Like if it was up to my son, he would watch TV the entire day, and then he would just friggin' grow roots into the couch, and then that would be it, right?
Right.
But I use what he doesn't understand exists for the purpose of benefiting him long term, and I think that that's such a good point, Joey, of what you said about like just eternity, not being a part of like, because the reality, I told this to somebody I met at a coffee shop recently. I told him, if God's not real, and if Jesus in resurrection is not a reality of life, resurrection, then life is just tragic. Period.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you get here, you fall in love with people, that you love dearly, like your mom, like your sister.
They get sick.
And then they
get
die,
hurt.
they get sick, they get taken from you, and then that's it.
And that's it.
Then there's no resurrection, there's no eternity. And I feel like you have, if you think of life that way, then truly there can be no God. Because tragedy equals God is evil. But if there is longevity in eternity, and there is a place where your mom and your sister will rejoice with you eternally, then the story flips. You know what I mean? And it's just adding eternity and God to it. You know what I mean? Like it.
Right.
So that's what changes the whole thing. Is like, you know, you can probably, I bet some of the tricks that you do, you probably start working on me 2 hours early.
Right.
An hour early. You're already suggesting things.
Right.
But I'm only aware of the trick because I'm right here. I can only see the mic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the moment that I get away, I'm gonna be able to see a lot of the stuff that's going on.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you, bro. I'm just so inspired by your father.
Oh, nice.
You know,
Me
I've
too.
never met him.
Yeah.
But just the way you describe him, it's just like it's just a man I definitely want to meet.
Yeah.
And,
our friend Tim Turpining's met him.
oh really?
Yeah, Tim's
I'm
met
so
him.
jealous.
Yeah, he met him one time. Yeah, my dad is a very unique cat, and he was
Apple doesn't fall from the tree.
My dad was in this little 1-bedroom apartment in Elizabeth, New Jersey, where he was born and raised and pretty poor. But my dad kind of came about everything himself, where he was like, oh, I can do this, or I can try that, or I can go in this direction, and whatever I want to do. He was always inspired by people, loved people. His mom was a real Christian woman who he took care of when he was 7 years old until she died when he was 7, and he would change her bedpan, and the whole thing when he was a little boy. And so my mom was a very strong Christian woman, and so my mom was, but my grandmother, my dad's mom. And so she would say things and things that really impacted my dad the rest of his life. And so I think her relationship with God really impacted. And he's really instilled these beliefs. And, my brother is a chef in Hawaii, and he chefs for the Obamas and for Jason Momoa and these people, and he does this really cool stuff, and he does yacht charters all the time. So he's out on yachts. And so my brother, and he's a master chef. The stuff he makes is unbelievable. And then he's been like, oh, I'm doing magic for people too, because I show my brother I do stuff. And my brother will be like, no, I'll say, go copy what I did on that TV show clip on YouTube and just do it like that, because he'll be like, oh, I got this idea of branding it where I'm like the magic chef. And so I'll send him a prop or something, and I'll tell him, go watch the video of me doing it, and then just copy what I'm doing.
Can you imagine you go to the chef and the chef's like, you actually already ate the food.
Right. Exactly. But it's pretty rad, because my brother is one of those guys and my brother and I always joke around that we do exactly what, when we were kids, we tried everything. My brother, we had alligators and snakes as kids.
Is he younger or older?
We had alligators in our house.
Wow.
What?
Is he younger or older
He's
than
2
you?
years younger than me. But my brother and I were both doing these things together when we were kids. We would perform magic together, and we would do all this stuff. And we were raised very, my dad, when my sister passed away, my dad and all of us, my dad and my brother and I, we have an older sister also, but my dad, my brother, and
Didn't
I
know that.
Yeah,
traveled.
Yeah.
My sister's a little bit more, I say she's got the normal stuff, going on. But she's a great mom and a great person. But my kid, my brother and I and my dad traveled for many years out of a van, and we would sleep in the van in KOAs and campgrounds. And my dad would do traveling sales like he did when we were really little.
Man.
And so my brother and I my brother would gold pan in Colorado and find flakes of gold and sell it and make all this money, and then go, here's what we're going to do. And we did all of these things. We didn't know that this stuff wasn't normal.
Bro.
We were performing and doing all this crazy
Joel,
stuff.
Everyone out there on Hollywood, make this man a freaking movie.
I was
going
going
to
to tell you, bro, I don't know if you've considered this enough, but that's a beautiful story.
Bro, your
man.
story is, I love it.
Like, it's not just an outstanding story.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful story, because I just consider like
It's all tied together, bro.
Yeah.
It's all.
Yeah.
My
Well,
daughter's
I love it.
named after my sister. When my sister passed in the car accident, I felt God tell me, "You're gonna have a daughter, and you will name her after your sister."
Yeah.
And I felt that when I was 14, and I remember whenever my wife and I found out we were gonna have a son, I was like, Like, what's going on? I thought we were having a daughter.
He's like, hold on.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait, dude, you got to wait another year. And then my daughter came along, and that's Olivia Grace, named after my sister. And here's the real, you want to talk about weirdness. When I met my wife, she had already had a son. My wife came over from Dubai. She was from Dubai, and she had a really bad experience with her father over there, and she escaped that and moved to America. She got married when she was really young. And she thought that's what she was supposed to do. She was very young, like 19. And so she had a son who's my stepson now, who we don't say is my stepson. We say he's my son. Yeah. But he's our 10-year-old.
You're a mentalist. Hara knew the whole time.
No, but here's the weird thing, man. This is where,
been planting.
guys, I did not. That's hilarious. I did not. My belief and my seeking after God was not me seeking after God. It was God seeking after me, because all of these things that have compiled over the years,
into it.
bro. Yeah. I looked into the Muslim faith, the Buddhism. I looked into, why are people agnostic? Why are people atheists? I looked at all of it. I looked at, guys, I know about Seventh-day Adventism. I know about Mormonism. I've been to Salt Lake City, talked to the people at church, looked at the original Joseph Smith writings. I've looked at everything to try and uncover where's the place, what's the thing, what is the answer. And these miraculous my sister knew she was going to die before she died. She went into, she was gardening with my godmother. My godmother's house was right next to ours, and she went in she said I had to go to the bathroom. My sister was 7, and this was right before she died, and she went in the bathroom. Remember, my mom had cancer, so my mom was in her deathbed, and my mom wanted to die at home. So my mom was getting alternative treatments in Mexico, and then because it wasn't legal in the States, the alternative treatment, so my mom was at home. My sister was at my godmother's. And my godmother's like, she's taking a long time. So she went in. As my sister was coming out, my godmother met up with her and said, where were you? And my sister was 7. And she goes, I think I fell asleep. And she goes, and I think I had a dream. And I dreamed I was waiting in heaven with God. And I had a real lammy. My little sister had a lamb skin that she would always sleep with. It was like a real lamb skin that ever since she was a baby, we'd put in the crib. And she had it. She carried it everywhere. She said it was a real lammy. And I was waiting with Jesus. And he said, Mommy's coming. We're waiting for Mom. Bro, 3 days later, my sister died. And when my sister died, my godmother had told me this, so it wasn't like she made it up. My godmother told me, Olivia, this weird thing happened a few days before my sister passed. Wow. I was like, that's weird. 3 days later, when Olivia passed, and she was brain dead right when she was hit. So she was swollen, and she was in the hospital. And there were hundreds of people from our church all there. It was a big deal. And my godmother went in and held her hand. My godmother's very close to my sister, like a daughter. My godmother couldn't have kids. And so she's like, and we call her godmother because we didn't know what else to call her. Not because of, so we wanted her to be close. We called her godmother. So she was holding her hand, and she told my dad, and she said, tell him what we talked about. And we told my dad the story about what happened, and that this was going to happen. And it was, So like these things, my mom didn't know. Nobody told my mom because we thought she was going to hyperventilate. My mom was in critical condition. We didn't say my sister, this is what happened to Olivia. But my mom was in the room, and she said, Olivia's here. And my mom didn't know Olivia was in a hospital room, in the same hospital as my mom on my mom's deathbed. Because at that point, they said, we need to bring her to the hospital. She was at the house. Said, we need to bring her to the hospital. And then my mom, on camera, because my dad would keep a camera on her like this to just capture anything she would say. I only watched these videos once. But my mom said, Olivia's in here. In one of the clips, as you watch it, and she goes, oh, you can't see her, can you? And my mom didn't know Olivia was dead at that point. I mean, there are things, man.
If you need to clip him, bro, keep going.
Keep going. I know we're past. Keep talking though.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wow, bro, that is unreal. I haven't heard that part of the story.
Yeah. Well, there's, dude, a lot of this stuff, it all ties together in these things that just, this has all been validation of, that's what I'm saying about like, I've tried to run from God, I think at times, but what happens is God will always come after you, and it's how much are you going to stifle him and push him down. And some people have gotten good at it, and they got really distracted by money and by fame and by all the things that we perceive as important. I get distracted by, I love cool clothes, I love cool cars, I love being able to do cool things. I do think money overall is just freedom. I don't look at it like money is the thing, but I do want freedom and for my family and all of that, and the ability to, live and enjoy our lives. But I definitely get distracted by those are cool glasses, those are cool shoes.
Shiny.
Yeah, the shiny things.
I call it the
but
shiny.
I know that it's superficial and it's stupid and it doesn't matter. It's just something that honestly it makes me happy. Just like maybe if you like playing a video game, it makes you happy. You like watching that movie, it makes you happy. I'm the same way with certain things. But overall, I could lose any of those things. I don't care. I could lose, my house. I don't care. I could lose any of that stuff. And ultimately, I want to be able to say that about my family. That ultimately, my family comes, is up at the top of the list. And it's really hard not to say my family comes before God. But in all honesty, it feels like my family comes before God, and my journey and my desire is for ultimately me to be able to say the same thing that my dad and our friend have said when they've lost their own children, and said thank you for that time I had with them, and I can't wait to see him again and this kind of thing.
Yeah. And I believe it comes from the foundation, because Jesus tells a parable about the foundation. If you build your house on the sand, right, and it says that when the storms come, when the rain comes, when
it's
the
inevitable,
wind comes,
it will.
it will. Yeah. And like that alone, like that foundation moment. I used to teach a message when I was a youth pastor, and when I used to teach young adult stuff too. I used to use a representation of like toothpaste. Like there's toothpaste was built for squeeze. Right. Yeah. And like our lives are going to have a squeeze on it. And the question is, when there is the pressure, when the squeeze comes, when the pressure comes, what comes out of you? And there's a moment when I look back, again, I'll use my miscarriage, right? When I look back on that with my wife, and I look back at it, and before I'd regret things, and I'd feel guilty, and I would be like, man, I could have done so much better. Or like, man, like Lord, like where was I missing things? Did I do something wrong to deserve this? Like all these different things, right? And then there's a moments where God would continue to have my eyes look back at it and be like, holy cow, through the most trauma thing that my wife and I have ever gone through, and in my opinion, what I have ever gone through, what came out of me was Jesus.
Right.
That's the only thing that came out of me. And now, did it mean that I didn't weep? Does it mean that I didn't go for runs and workout and drives in just losing my marbles and frustrated and pissed off at God? No. Does it mean that I wasn't exhausted and didn't have the right answers? No. What I knew, that after everything, after like just boiled over, whatever it was, I'd always come back to, God, you're still there.
Yeah, I think the problem is that people don't do with that, and most people do. And my problem has always been I've been good at distracting myself, but I think people either turn away from God entirely and are very dark and negative underneath it. Yeah. And even whenever I've been on stage, or even around you guys or around anybody in general, and I might look all put together, a lot of times that's an act that people are putting on. And really, Jim Carrey's one of the darkest people I've ever heard of. And
really?
Oh yeah. And he comes out as being this very like outgoing and charismatic and like happy. He's a comedian. A lot of times the comedians are the darkest people because you have to shut God out in these moments when you're going through miscarriage, when you're going through the loss of a friend or a family member, when you're going through the real darkness that is inevitable. It's inevitable.
It's gonna happen.
We live in a broken place. So that's gonna happen. So whenever that happens, either you have to shut God out completely and live in the darkness. This is what people do. They either do that, or they're really hyper good at distracting themselves.
To never be able to actually walk through it.
To be able to not walk through it like you're saying. And in the way, my biggest thing was always distracting myself. And I'm really good at it. And I'm still really good at it.
Well, you do it for a living, right?
Yeah, but even... So elements of that, I'm doing things that, that stuff is distracting, but also, like you talk about how I'm down to earth and all of that. I've gone through the times where I'm shooting multiple TV things and I'm thinking, oh, maybe I am the man. Maybe I am going to be, the biggest and all of this.
I go through that often, bro.
Yeah.
Right. And you will, and it'll be an ongoing thing. And that's the thing is, as not just a Christian, but as human beings, we have to realize that our journey is never over. My dad's 73, and my dad still goes, "Hey, I'm sorry, I messed up. I did the wrong thing."
Come on, man.
And he's come a long way from that, because when I was a kid, I never remember my dad apologizing. But now, that's because my dad's grown, and he goes, "Oh wait, I have to acknowledge and I have to apologize and I have to realize I'm doing the wrong thing."
Come on, bro.
And so that's the thing. Like, I think, when you go through these traumas that are inevitable and they're going to happen, and no matter how much you try and you can't lock yourself in your house and think you're going to be okay. You live in the world; it's going to happen. So whenever it happens, how are you going to deal with it? And atheists and people who choose to completely turn God out, they live in the darkness and think you know, they either distract themselves or they just, you know, I think the biggest thing is distracting yourself. And all the celebrities that I've seen and that I've met in real life, and like one of my best buddies who we've done a lot of TV together, and he's a great illusionist. He does big grand illusions and tours. He's all over the world right now on a world tour. His best friend who was in his show was Jim Carrey's girlfriend who killed herself. And she wrote in the message, she blamed Jim. And Jim was the pallbearer and carried the coffin.
Wow.
And it was this heavy thing. She was this little Irish girl. And
Never heard that.
Then we had a manager who's this girl who's just the sweetest girl. And you know, some people who are watching this, you know, will know who this girl is. So I'm not going to drop her name because out of respect for her. But she ended up, she was a very sweet, beautiful girl, and she ended up. She would message us in group messages. She was with us on a lot of TV sets when we'd film these TV shows because I was in like a magic rock band. Like it was like a boy band of magicians. So I was in that for a while. We did some TV stuff and we did America's Got Talent, some other stuff in it.
So not actual music, like you just
No,
went
we
to
were
the
doing magic.
A rock band.
Okay.
We were a rock band.
I was gonna say, like, all right,
I mean,
So basically what happened was this girl ended up, she was best friends with the girl who killed herself because of this philosophy that Jim Carrey was telling her about how life is meaningless and nothing matters. And all of this, and he was saying it's freeing, you know, none of this means anything,
bro.
None of
Talk
this
about this, dude.
none of this means anything, and it's this freeing thing to where we can do whatever the heck we want. And so what happened was, you know, the ripple effect was the girl, Jim Carrey's girlfriend, who was one of my best buddies, girl that he grew up being friends with. She killed herself, and then the girl who was she was managing our group for about 2 years, and she started saying weird stuff in group chats, and we'd message each other and go, "We need to go have an intervention." You know, somebody needs to go. She lived in L.A., and we need to go. We need to go to her place in Hollywood and help her out. She killed herself. I mean, they both, and then some of my friends who because a lot of my friends in the industry are like that. They're either not searching anymore, or they think the answer is a non-answer. So they're like, you know,
which is such a crazy statement.
The biggest statement that atheists say is like, Penn Jillette is somebody I really admire as a performer, but whenever it comes to the fundamentals, I admire the fact he does believe in proselytizing. He does believe, if you think I'm jumping out of a plane without a parachute, tell me about it. Because how much do you have to hate somebody to not tell them? You're going to end up in an eternal hellfire. Yeah. I appreciate and respect that. But he really, really believes, he'll go, does the year 1890 terrify you? And you go, what are you talking about, 1890? Well, you weren't around. No, I wasn't. Does that terrify you? No. He goes, you're indifferent, right? Same thing's going to happen after you die. Doesn't matter. It doesn't scare me. He's like, I've had losses in my life. I lost my mom, my sister at the same time. I've had these things. So there's this deep.
Well, there's a big difference between numbing your mind from what, like, okay, hey, death is inevitable. At 99.9999999%, there's only 3 people of our knowledge that have not died based off scripture, which was Jesus, Elijah, and Enoch. Those are the 3 people we see that didn't.
Forgot about the Enoch and
right?
Elijah.
He says he walked with God and he was no more than and then Elijah got brought up into a chariot of fire, right? And so we have 3 people, but 99.999% is death is going to happen, right? Yeah. But yet for some reason, which I still laugh at this, there are people, trillionaires, billionaires, that they get everything they want, and then the one thing they still are seeking, eternal life.
Yeah.
Why are they trying to longevity their life? If you have everything you need, and if this place is the answer, why are you continuing to try to find eternal life?
Well, we have it in us to constantly be seeking also. And there's this thing that we have in us to constantly seek. And that's it's a gift because God's bringing us back to him. And so we have this
drawing to him.
Right. And so we have this ability. So what happens is, and what you find in all the stories, and it's 1,000,000,000% true, is all of these famous or rich people that say, like Jim Carrey. I do like this quote from Jim Carrey. I don't know why I keep bringing up Jim Carrey, but this quote that he says that I wish everybody could become rich and famous so they could find out it's not the answer.
Say that again. Sorry,
I wish that everybody could become rich and famous so they could find out that it's not the answer. My big struggle, and like the almost famous tattoo and this kind of thing, is I've always struggled with, as a man, I've always been like, okay, if I'm going to do magic tricks for a living, I better do it in the biggest way and look the coolest I can be with it, and do it in this way that just looks so rad that everybody's like, this guy. So I always felt like that. So as a man, we automatically have a need to be seen. I've always been friends with pastors for some reason. I've always connected with them, I think, because I speak in public and they do, and we believe in God and are Christ followers. But a similarity to a lot of pastors that I know is that they always felt like they wanted to preach and share the word of God, but they also have a need to be seen. We have this need to be seen. And so, and I think Joshua Broom said that on the podcast I listened to, which was really good. And he said he wanted to be famous. That was one of the things he said. If you didn't hear that podcast, it was about this amazing dude who was in the porn industry, right? And then came out of it. Now he's got kids and he's a pastor, and just this amazing dude because he figured out the truth, which is, like I always was like, I just got to get on TV. And now, I mean, my 10-year-old said he was looking at all my stuff and he's like, I think you've been on national TV almost 50 times was the thing. And it doesn't do any. I thought
the itch.
I used to think if I could do it, if I could be on TV. I used to watch this show called World's Greatest Magic on NBC. And I thought if I could be on that show one time. Well, that show morphed into a show called Masters of Illusion. I've been on it 20 times. We got 10 more episodes coming out in January.
Every Monday.
Yeah, I'm on it all the time. And it just changed into this new show, so I already did that. And I used to think if I could go on America's Got Talent, if I could do this. We actually figured out that I am I always call myself the biggest loser of reality TV shows because I've been on 5 reality-based TV shows where you're judged, where there's judges. Okay. I've been on a show called Fool Us, a show called Wizard Wars with Penn and Teller, America's Got Talent. I did a show called Fake Off on True TV, and I did 5 episodes or 6 episodes of that show. And so all of these shows and I didn't win any of them. I got either second place or I didn't win them. And so I always say I'm the biggest loser of reality TV shows. But I do think I'm one of the only magicians around to have done that many reality TV shows. And so, any of these things, or I've won awards and I won Entertainer of the Year and, Magician of the Year, Mentalist of the Year, you win all these awards. And I far surpassed whatever I thought. I thought if I could get on TV a few times, if I could do magic for people on a regular basis, performing on big stages and look like a rock star.
Or private events that you never thought you'd be like
going and performing for celebrities like Jennifer Lopez or Brad Pitt or Johnny Depp and these people who you hang out with and you get to, and I used to watch Jackass and now I'm friends with Steve-O, and these kinds of things. And you think, if ever I could tap into that, I've way gone further than I ever thought. And it's not only is it not the answer, but it could almost bring you down worse because you go, you still say I'm not a super famous, which is not a tangible thing because you're only famous to the person that saw you. So I was getting on an Enterprise shuttle the other day, and somebody asked for my photo, and the driver goes, "I'll take it. Should I know who this guy is?" And she goes, "He does magic." And I go, "Oh, she really does know me." And the driver didn't know me, so he doesn't care. So I'm saying it's all relative to where it's like if you like a television show, like Breaking Bad, you're a fan of Bryan Cranston, but if that person doesn't watch Breaking Bad, they don't care who that guy is. Right. So fame is it's not something you can even weigh because fame. Yeah. You guys have this podcast and this platform, so to your listeners, you're famous, but there's no measure. There's no measuring it. It makes no sense to try and shoot for stuff like this. It makes no sense. And then whenever you do become that ultimate thing, those people will tell you they have no fulfillment in it. They will all tell you, or they're majorly distracted by it. They're majorly distracted.
Do you think that? So I want to ask you, I have a question for you. So the question I have for you is because you said it might be even worse when you achieve all these things and you can actually drive yourself deeper. So do you think the reason why is because you boost this version of yourself that fails you at the end? Anyway,
I think for me, I've always struggled with, and I find it, you find out everybody does. So everybody struggles with insecurities, and the insecurities, everybody struggles with them. And I'm talking, you talk about, you go, oh, I'm such a fan of, LeBron James or whoever, these basketball players or sport people or actors or musicians. And I've met some of the most famous people that I'm like, this person's so they're dealing with such insecurities and they need the validation.
World, can you almost feel this
the same? Yeah, you can feel energies with people is such a huge part of what I do when I'm trying to read people and trying to go off of their body language and how they're reacting, and if you nod right away or if you're crossing your arms or folding your legs and all of these different things. So you can tell immediately. There's certain A-list celebrities that I've met, whether it's on a set of a TV show or at a party or event, where you can feel not just the insecurities, but the need for validation, even where they're already at. And you're like, that's the top of the heap. And yet they have this drastic insecurity that has this major need for validation. And that's why you find so many people, including some of the biggest, the first time I met can I drop the names?
Sure.
The first time I met Johnny Depp was like the drug stuff is like the most casual, no big deal to some of these guys, because it's just something in that world that you just do, and it's not a big deal. And it's everybody is trying to numb yourself and distract yourself. And it's such an extremely normal thing. And so, yeah, the more you go, first of all, the more nobody's going to tell you no when you're at that level.
So how about you do this? Tell us, bro, because some people have, one thing that I love about this podcast is that it speaks to a lot of people that are younger than us. So some of the girls that we're going to grab lunch with today, and they're going to be on the podcast today, they are in their early 20s. And these are people who are still, like us, learning what is actually a worthy pursuit in life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, like I said, nothing is truer. At the end, nothing is truer than the lie you tell yourself. So these people are, you're believing, social media clout means something because this is what the world is telling you it means. So you have a lot of, and we all believe it. I mean, even really good Christian pastors and people, they'll go, he has a lot of following, or they have a lot of this or that. And it's because we're all still struggling, and it's a journey, and we're all still working on ourselves and trying to figure it out. And so the fact is this is this kind of, if you don't, I'm still on the journey with it. Yeah. So to try and get a direct answer out of me is going to be tough, because I'm still trying to figure it out. Right. But ultimately, I think that I'm finding that just every time you try and quench that thirst, only God will fill it, because that's how we're built. And we're built that way. We are naturally, we were designed that way. So what's happening is I go, maybe that car, or maybe that item, or that clothing thing, or this TV appearance. And every time I achieve a thing that I want, which you will achieve it. I mean, the law of attraction isn't, if I think about it all the time, the law of attraction is an inevitability that if you only focus on that thing, you will become that thing. And that's what happened to me. Everything I ever wanted as a performer and as an entity, I became that. And as long as I keep moving in that direction, as long as you don't quit. One surefire thing is if you quit, you won't succeed. But if you don't ever quit, the inevitability is you will succeed on some level with it.
And you can say the same thing about Christ, right? Like if you focus on Jesus, and everything in your life is centered on that pursuit of having Him, of receiving what He has for you, right? It's inevitable. I mean, the Bible says those who seek will find. Those who knock on the door will.
I picture the I don't know if you and I were talking about this, but it's the, hey, if you show up at a meeting, a business meeting, it's like, all right, hey, how many red cars did you see? Like, I don't know. I may have saw a few.
We were talking about this.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, okay, if I tell you for every red car, I'll pay you $50,000 that you see.
Then you'll see
every single red car that ever shows up. Yeah. Why? Because you have placed value on the thing that you're seeking, right? And you have placed that I'm gonna.
That's a very strong truth,
right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes if we are looking for death or darkness or the world's corruption and the weakness and all of this stuff, we're gonna keep seeing it. But if, like your dad, like your friend, like where you can say, okay, though I'm walking in darkness,
right,
I see the light.
Right.
Though I'm going through this, though I'm in Hollywood and the freaking Hollywood scene's another world, I'm going to choose as Joel to live differently. And I'm going to choose with a different mindset.
As long as you're always seeking, man. The problem is people get so distracted so quickly and so easily, and everybody's living in this distracted world because there's so many distractions around us. And now we live in the age of information where everything is readily available at our fingertips, and you can look at a satellite at the top of your own head on your phone. So it's like,
I see my house. Oh, right. That's what my roof's
right.
Like.
So like you have this ability to where everything is so easily, we're more distracted than ever. Yeah. And the fact is you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your loved ones, you owe it to the fact that we exist is an anomaly. The fact that we exist is a miracle. Yeah. And everything scientifically and biology, the biology of it all, and it's all such an absolute miracle that we exist. So we owe it to the fact that our existence is even that we're even here. We owe it to ourselves to figure out, just try and seek any kind of. That's all I ever ask of anybody is try and just
be a truth seeker.
Yeah, be a truth like try and find where the truths are, because you will find them, and God, it's inevitable. There is we were built in this way to where God will find you when you seek him 1000%. If you continuously say, no, which is what everybody, not everybody, but a lot of the people who are atheists and agnostics and these people who are like, just so, I always say that atheists are just arrogant agnostics, because to say with absolute certainty there is no gold buried in China is absurd. Like, have you ever dug in every hole in China? You couldn't know that. But atheists go, there is no God.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be like, wait a minute, by definition, an atheist is there is no God.
So if you
There's
thought
a belief.
if you thought the atheist, and again, like, this is not to dig on people, but like I always love talking about the validity of Christ, because I like to think of myself, and not in a prideful way. I think I'm blessed with my thinking. I think God has given me an ability to like think and be a smart guy, right? Like, and I praise him for that. And a lot of my search for God has not just been, oh, there's pie in the sky, cool, let's go get it. There are a lot of signs that I observe in the
there are
world.
people that live in that.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
And it's like, and I how that gets weighed in the eternal way, scale of heaven. I mean, I don't know, but for me, like, I can list a few reasons why I believe in God, right? So talking to you and knowing that no matter how much you achieve in life, you're still going to be lacking something, and you're going to be hungry for something more eternal than what you can achieve.
Still like scratching.
That makes me
none of it goes away,
because I've experienced it. When we've earned money that we've never earned before, like
100%.
I've experienced that. In fact, that sometimes, and this validates the Bible, that the more you have, actually, the less peace you have. That is a sign.
I had
that God
more
is
peace
true.
as a teenager, lost and trying to figure things out, and not having any career than I do now, or than I did as I got older. Because of that.
So that's one, right? The other one, and I love what you were talking about. I mean, I don't love it, but like when you were discussing how like Jim was like sharing all this of this lack of meaning with this girl that he dated, and then she took her life, and then like another came after that. That resonates really deeply with me, because my dad's agnostic, and I grew up receiving a lot of that information. And my dad has a particularity, bro, that no matter who he hangs with, hope begins to dissipate. It's like people begin to die inside by the stuff he shares. And so it's like a plant, you know what I mean? Like, you see a plant, and there are things that are really bad for it, like if they're like getting scorched by the sun, or if they are getting not enough water, and they begin to look dead and like just like not well. And then you see another plant that is like thriving and like living, right? And that's one thing that I like, the way in which I see like sometimes the philosophies people live by, they get fed by, how the human soul actually prospers, like to see it like in real life, right? So like you see somebody receiving all that hopelessness, like, bro, there are like philosophy, which I think that's so funny, like philosophy class, you're really just teaching one philosophy. Like, you're not really like, it's like very biased philosophy, right? But like, there are some colleges in philosophy class where you actually have to sign a waiver that if you take that, this might get so depressing that if you take your life, like, it's not our fault, you know? And it's like,
my wife has got a degree in psychology. She's when
there you go.
Yeah. The fact is your dad, and no disrespect, because I at least agnostic, as an agnostic, at least you're open to dialogue, right? You're open to conversation.
I don't know. I feel like agnostic. Yeah. I disagree. I think
it depends. It's a personal thing. So it depends on the person, because I do know atheists that are open to talk to you about it. But the thing is there are very convincing ways to go in many different directions. And again, for me, it always comes back to what I do, because I design what I do to make it look as convincing as possible, even though I'm telling you it's not real. I'm going to make you, by the end, if you see my show, by the end of it, there are people who come up to me. I do a seance looking ghost thing. And in the beginning, I say none of this is real. I say it. And then at the end, people come up to me and go, Elvis Presley was my grandfather's favorite artist who came through, and that was my grandfather, who was Bill, who we were talking about, who I never thought I would contact him. I go, you heard everything I said in the beginning, right? But nothing is truer than the lie you tell yourself. And the fact is you can be so convincing in anything. And if somebody who is an agnostic or an atheist sounds very convincing about their non-belief, yeah, they're living in we have incredible brains and the way that we think, we have this ability to be able to rationalize. It's God-given. It's design. We're designed to be seekers. And so, and to find, the truths. It always comes back to certain elements. And I love watching debates with people like like how Chris Hitchens would debate with, God. Some of these debates are where it's like a Christian who was a scientist, and that's how they became a Christian. But at first, they were trying to disprove.
Yes. And then because of the disproving, they actually proved the Lord.
Because what happens is any atheist who does do that and still considers himself to be a scientist, like Richard Dawkins is the most hateful man I've ever seen. He goes, oh, you need to hate and persecute Christians. You need to make fun of them. Because he has to go by something that other people have told him, which is, you have this need to be religious about your atheism. Do you try and write books about why unicorns don't exist? Do you try and write books about why Hogwarts and Harry Potter world isn't a real place?
It's not a real place?
No. Sorry. Santa's not real.
What do you have the tattoo?
But you don't have the need to have devout, conversations and debate people about the validity of a unicorn. So why do you feel the need to have? It's because
it's war.
Bro, it's war, bro. Once you come to certain places scientifically about, okay, well, maybe the Big Bang did happen, but there's so much evidence that it was spoken into.
There was a Big Bang.
There was a bang it went pop and it happened and it came into existence.
We're not careful in Taiwan, we might have another Big Bang.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so there comes to these points where these people have to say, well, I'm not going to go down that road any further. You have to do that. You have to seek to an extent and then close yourself off to it. Because once the truths start to reveal themselves, that's where the people that are just as intellectual as you, Richard Dawkins, or just as intellectual as you, Christopher Hitchens, just as intelligent, just as much trying to seek truth, just as much trying to ascertain the realities of the world. There's people that are just like you in all those ways, but they weren't as arrogant to where at the end they go, wait a minute, you will not see miracles around you unless you even a little bit, bro. I've been through times in my life where I've been completely cut off from. I feel him pulling at me, but I'm too distracted. I'm trying to be on TV. I'm trying to do these things. I'm trying to look cool. I'm trying to be on stage. I'm trying to create this. I'm trying to create that. And I'm surrounded by everybody around me who isn't encouraging me to be seeking God. But the fact is these people have to be incredible. You have to be arrogant about. You have to go, that's stupid to me. And it's like, you have to say these things that are mean and putting down and persecuting, like Richard Dawkins will say, you need to make fun of Christians. He'll say, you need to make fun of them. And it blows my mind because these same intellectuals who have tried to seek, what's Lee Strobel? You know Lee Strobel? Have you heard of Lee Strobel?
That sounds familiar.
Lee Strobel was one of the. He was
Is he the astrophysicist? Or?
He was a journalist who tried to write a book originally about God not being there, and in doing all the research, he found God, and he was like, "What?" And his wife was like, "What are you doing?"
But you know what I think the difference is, Joel, and this is like this is something I tell Joey all the time. I love to be wrong.
Yeah,
I love to be wrong because. God has gotten me to where I am by proving me to be wrong in many instances of my life. And I think part of the problem is that people pretend to seek but are not willing to be wrong when they're found out about something, right? So for example, I was having a conversation with my dad. It's good. And he's talking to me about like just, the government today in life. And he's like, the problem is that people don't have authority anymore. I mean, they just don't follow authority anymore. I told you he's agnostic, right? So they don't follow authority anymore. Like there's nobody is under authority. And I'm like, so I was like, okay, Dad, I think that's a great point. That's a great point. I asked him, who's your authority?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, no. Don't escape the question. Who's your authority? What have you made to be your authority, right? What I think is that his authority is a list of reasonings and beliefs that kind of sort of determine his life, but really they're very contradictory in a lot of different instances of his life, right? Because he'll tell me that he really, really loves me, and then I tell him,
how do you define it?
What is that? What is that? What chemical reaction are you talking about? Is that really meaningful? Do you just like?
Why are you married? Marriage shouldn't be a thing if you don't believe in God. Like, why is it a thing? Why not just say, I really love this person, I think, and so I'm going to be with this person?
Yep.
Yeah. So then in instances like that, I'll tell him, well, Dad, so this is what I'll do at the end, right? So we just reason together that that people need authority, and you don't have any.
Right.
Do you agree? Well, you know what I mean? And so it's like, so I feel like one of the primary characteristics of somebody who is an intellectual who does not believe in God is that they have to continually avoid some of the hard oppositions that they.
That's the biggest thing. Anybody who does not believe in God ultimately and are constantly distracting themselves, especially the people who are actually actively seeking and writing things like books about how God doesn't exist, the God delusion, the God who wasn't there, and these things that I've read and I find that they have to come to a point of that, because what they're doing is ultimately, where are you getting your foundation? You're pulling it out of your butt. You are. I mean, you're taking pieces of what other people are saying, going, that sounds like it aligns with something I've been thinking lately. And you're piecing it all together in this weird thing that you've constructed. And what happens is, God being who he is, and he's been consistent since the beginning and since forever. He's always been consistent to where it always, I'm not getting, there are times where a church can deconstruct a scripture verse and can, say it in a different way than another sermon. You know what I mean? Two pastors can say it two different ways. Yeah. And that ultimately maybe they're trying to go for the same thing. There are things like that, but the most important thing, the John 3:16s, the things that are the most important things that make us who we are, that make it to where somebody like me, who's a broken, messed up person who's done everything bad in my life, or like can make it to where somebody like the guy who was the Son of Sam killer, who was a very famous killer in the 70s, who killed all these women, and now he's this intensely amazing Christian guy who ministers and brings people to God in prison. And this is the Son of Sam. His name is David Berkowitz. Wow. I go, if that guy, you know how I said I saw you guys were Christians when I met you, and I could see it radiating off you? You see that in this guy. You see God living in him. Wow. And this guy has murdered people. I mean, and he says, it was satanic. It was what?
For fun.
It was for, what I'm talking about. David Berkowitz was the Son of Sam killer, and now this guy is, I told my wife, I said, that guy, I'd let that guy stay in my home. She goes, what?
Crazy.
I go, because God is in that man.
Bro, because there's
I'd let that guy stay in my house.
Because there's a chance that what caused that man to do what he did is that he didn't know who he was, and that he was being pushed and was being motivated by intentions of a different entity, a different thing.
They call him Son of Sam because he wrote all this, chicken scratch that looked like demonic, right? It was demonic stuff. It was being,
At the time,
but if God can take people like that, he could take the worst type of situation where you're murdering people.
Bro, if they can take, if God can take you and I and us three in this room.
What? You need to tell your dad that kind of stuff.
Dude. Yeah.
Is that guy faking it?
Dude.
He's been faking it for all these years. Go do some research on this, man.
My dad studied psychology, and so he would come up with some sort of psychology. Because that's the other thing about faith that we have to mention, is that there's always going to be a way for a faithless person to refute God doing something amazing, right? There's always going to, like, my son was healed from open spinal bifida in the womb.
Wow.
And I could, in a scientific way, determine how it is that he got healed, or there was a mistake.
Dude, mass hypnosis is people, everybody worshiping and feeling and everybody, you could say that's mass hypnosis. I know a mentalist in England, really famous, named Darren Brown, who did this whole thing. I think it was called, it was about, I don't remember the name. It was about a guy who was just an actor who he turned into a prosperity preacher, and for television purposes, made it to where this guy looked like he was this pastor and bringing people to God and all of this. And apparently in the version of the show he was doing, he was trying to disprove pastors, faith healing, all of these things. Yep. And in doing that, I go, well, here's the irony and the funny thing about that kind of concept is you can explain certain aspects of this scientifically, just like you're saying. Yep. The things that you cannot explain are, if you open your eyes just a little bit to the possibility that do I see God radiating out of a guy like David Berkowitz, the Son of Sam killer? When I first met you guys and I didn't know a thing about you, and I go, those guys are Christian dudes. And you meet people and you see God in people. It's because you open your eye a little bit to the idea, what do they have? And people say it. And your dad will say it. He'll go, I bet you anything. He looks at you and goes, you're a happy guy. Like, you're a good, you're a positive guy.
My dad is my Nazareth. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't. But my mom got saved because she saw what
are your parents still together?
No, they got divorced when I was 5.
Okay.
Yeah. But dude, can I share one thing?
Yes.
So one thing that I continue as you were sharing, like, the moments I was unwilling to change was because my own pride. I was unwilling to be wrong, which you were talking about. And it's the most simple statement that began to shift me. And it is that there are absolute truths and we have to be willing to seek them. And the reality is that those absolute truths can be as simple as 2 + 2 = 4. But if my pride continues to say, no, 2 + 2 always equals 9. Well, I'm actually wrong.
Right.
But I can continue to write on that test.
Yeah,
2
you're right.
+ 2 = 9.
That's what it is.
And guess what? In my own pride, I'm going to keep getting the answer wrong.
It's the pride thing, man.
And it always boils back to just the pride.
Just like when I'm doing magic for him and I'm doing magic for you and I'm doing magic for him, he's open to the idea of it. If I'm talking to you and you're completely shut down to the idea of who God is.
This is all fake.
You're the idea of who God is. And you're not even a little bit willing to open your vision even that much to where you're like, maybe there's something here a bit. You'll always be shut down and you'll believe the lie that you tell yourself. And you'll believe these things because you're not open to it. And if you can't see God in the God moments, which are there, if you can't see God there, that's because you're limiting yourself to it. You're not allowing yourself. Dude, I have tried so hard. I have tried to worship myself. I have tried. I still sometimes struggle with it, and then God pulls me back in.
So bro, why? Right now.
Because I'm in the entertainment industry, and it's a world of worshiping yourself.
No, I'm saying, why come back? Like, so I'm asking.
Because it's truth. Because you can't deny what's been put in you. Because you're designed. God made us in His image. I don't care. You know,
How profitable has it been to worship yourself?
There's no fulfillment in it.
Yeah,
come on.
Like but seriously,
sex is designed. Men are sexual. To be with our wives. We're designed. That's a gift to be two people. Whenever you try and put it into, I love having casual sex. I love looking at these images of these women, because God designed us to have this ability to be able to do these things with our wife as a gift and as this amazing thing that connects you to physically in the way that you feel emotionally, to be able to act it out physically. Any of these things that you try and find the fulfillment in it will leave you destitute. It will leave you without any of it. I've been to the darkest places, bro. I have been to the places I've looked up, when you Google how to kill yourself, I hope you haven't done that, but when you Google how to kill yourself, it says help is available. It tells you, and then it, first it says help is available. And all. I've looked up, I've tried to. There's been many times where I'm like, if there's no point, then why? What does it matter? Consciousness doesn't matter if that's the darkest places I've gone to. Like, being conscious doesn't matter, and we're worthless but here's the thing. We're not, none of us are in it by ourselves. Everybody's going through this. And even the thing I love the most is people look at me and think, oh, Joel's got to figure it out. He's in the entertainment industry, and look at how flashy he is, and he's got a pretty family, and he's got dresses nice.
You got a pretty family.
Thank you. So do you guys. But that's how people will look at you. Right. People will look and they'll go, oh, Alejo and Joey have it figured out, and they're such good guys, and they're happy, and look at their pretty family, and look at how they dress, and they'll think these things. And so we think that we're the ones that are going through this stuff. We all go through the same things at different points and in different ways, and for some people it's heavier and more deep. For me, it was easier to go through because I go to I've been to these Hollywood parties with these famous people that I go, I admire that person, and they do it, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't I do it if Johnny Depp is doing it? that kind of thing. Like, why wouldn't
and then
I?
you see a trial like Johnny Depp's, and you realize how broken somebody's life. Yeah, and you're like, well, that's the profit of all that. Like,
bro.
And this is the thing this is another reason why I believe God is real, right? Like, I have seen time and time again, and this is the premise of like our podcast is actually the verse that we go off of is Psalm number 1, which talks about, like the trees that bear fruit in all seasons because they're planted by the riverbed, and like those who are actually away from God's commands, away from God's instruction, they are destroyed. They perish, right? And one of the ways in which like I observe God to be so real is when I see His word play out in front of me, right? So I'll see somebody pursue money, pursue fame, pursue all those different things, and then their lives fall apart, their families begin to fall apart, like all these, like, it's like rising, but it's like a plane that's being destroyed as it's like getting closer to the sun, right? And then you see somebody who is maybe in a different, like that has less of the world, so to speak, right? But then the things that are rich in life are actually preserved. you know, and you observe both, and you're like, well, what? And it really becomes a matter of what do people actually want?
That's what I meant by the more I've gotten what I wanted, the worse it actually gets, because that's why what is the weight of sin is death. And I think that means in all ways, because what happens is the more you're getting what you want, and the more that what you thought you wanted, what you thought would fulfill you.
You should be the preaching magician, dog. Dropping some truth.
I don't know at what point
death comes in more than just one way. Yeah. You're absolutely right about that. Like, and people don't see that. Like, that's one thing, for example, that you can only see. That's how I know, for example, your spiritual eyes are open, right? That's another way, like, you know, another sign of God being real. Oh, that person has something that I could let them stay at my house.
Yeah, people don't. You have to ignore that.
Yes.
If for you to live in your darkness and your I'm not going to say blissful unawareness, because it's not blissful, but for you to be in your unawareness and your inability to be able to even open those doors and to live in your distractions, you have to be able to ignore those things. So when you meet people and you go, there's something about that guy, and then you go, huh, interesting.
And just keep walking.
Yeah. Whenever you see a miraculous moment happen in your life, which they are these miracles are here. You know, this table is not here. My mom used to always say there's a reality that's more real than this. And what she meant is, like, physics says that if you moved your hand at the right vibration, that would go through this table, right? We're all just what? What are we?
Matter.
Energy, matter, right? We're
vibration.
We're not really here, but we're sitting here going, you know, we're like, we need to see what's right in front of us. And it's like the reality of what is right in front of you is you know, you guys have seen somebody pass away, right? Take a last breath, right? Yeah. We've seen it. And when that happens, we go, oh, it's that simple. It's almost like, it's like that simple. It's like falling asleep. But we make this big elaborate thing out of it. Like it's a big deal. The fact is it's so natural and so simple and so easy, and it's so part of our existence that we make it a bigger thing. And really it's just a breath. It's just a breath. It's just another side of a veil that we don't see. And on that other side of the veil, that's just right here. It's just right here. And, you know, heaven might be really on this, you know, we're like, it's up there in the clouds. It might be right here in a veil. And then we just don't know how to move that curtain that's on the other side of these cameras.
I'm gonna start kicking stuff, dog.
We don't know how to. We don't know how to move this.
I got something.
There's a curtain. There's a curtain on the other side of these cameras, and if we can see it, but if that curtain was the veil, and if we could just put our hand out and feel it and move it, and that's where everybody is, and that's where everything is, and whenever you get there, you realize, oh, this was the reality.
And by the way, like these realizations, we've had many times, like I've had many times in life where I have these realizations, like first, like when I realized what I didn't know that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like,
which is such a funny statement.
Hold on a minute, right?
I didn't know that I didn't.
You're like, I did not know that.
Just open if people just are willing to this much, open yourself up to the idea that maybe you don't know it all. And maybe that there is something out there that's more and greater and bigger than yourself and what's in your tunnel that you see.
Maybe there's a truth that you haven't opened your eyes to the realization that there's truth. That there actually is an answer.
Well, have conversations. It's not your job. It's not Pastor Joey's job. It's not these people's job to pull you through the door and go, there you are. It's your job to open it even that much and say, you know, let me just share with you what I've experienced, because the darkness that you feel, bro, I've been there so much. I've been suicidal so many times where I'm like, okay, well, why not just end it all? Like, what does it matter? If it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. Then what are you doing? Like, either search for the truth and try and find it because it is there. Either search for it and try and see maybe what is it that this person or these couple of people that I've seen. Generally, it just takes one person. Like, you guys don't realize the ripple effect of what you guys go, oh, thanks for coming, you know, and we really appreciate it. And you say all these sweet things, and thanks for blessing us with bringing us coffee and stuff. But you guys don't understand the level of impact you have on me, because I'm surrounded in the entertainment industry by people that are pulling me in every other direction, to where now, I've always struggled with having a potty mouth. You know, and it's like now my 10-year-old is saying a cuss word every once in a while, and I'm like, oh, dude.
Where did you learn that
from?
Well,
and I try and say that. And he goes, well, Dad, I've heard you say that. And I go, that's true. I mean, you know, so how am I going to lead by example? Like, you know what I mean? So I'm I really appreciate you guys and you don't realize the ripple effect of what it has. And maybe things that you guys say, what it says to me that I say to somebody else who's going through stuff. I have friends who are deep in Scientology, and so they're open to spirituality, but they're talking about, any atheist. Here's something that atheists say all the time that cracks me up. That is, you're an atheist too, Alejo. You're an atheist. There's 5,000 gods that people say have existed. You're an atheist to all those other gods except for your God.
Yeah, I 100% am.
Right. Ooh. But they say, so I'm just an atheist to one more God, your God. So I'm like, oh, good. You know what that does to me? That makes me just have to talk to you about hard facts about who Jesus was and the validity of this man who supposedly lived. The facts that are out there that show that not only did he live, that he died. Well, and if he died, he came back to life, and there's evidence of that. There's hard facts. If you seek it, you'll find it, bro.
That's what I was going to say about agnosticism, bro, is that agnosticism to me is another word for being a coward.
Yeah, it is
because what it is, and I tell Joey all the time, like, I'm not going to live this life, bro, and have in front of me the responsibility of betting all of my money, all of my treasure, all of my life, all of my breath on something, and then live my entire life going, no, nothing's worth it. Like that lets me know, like, if you have that, to me is passivity. That to me is
passivity.
No, passivity.
Okay.
Passivity, like being passive.
Okay.
That to me is lack of having courage to like actually live. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You need to. You owe it to yourself. If I'm wrong, I lose nothing. If you're wrong, you lose everything.
Yes.
And the fact is you have to be. You have to just give yourself the ability to even say that, if I'm wrong, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to be screwed if I'm wrong. And if there really is a hell and there really is this God who's pulling me for years while I'm here on earth, pulling me to his direction and giving me every opportunity, and then I still turn away, and I had every opportunity in front of me. We have to just be able to say, maybe I need to, all the distractions that's all they are. They're just distractions, and money and fame or notoriety or ability to.
I feel like the Lord just gave me an image that I've never thought of before. So it has to be the Lord. There's an image. So I have a friend, one of my best friends is actually colorblind. Right. And so certain colors are like the same color to him. So like certain shades of green, like his color shirt, he wouldn't be able to tell that that's a darker or whatever. It's just green. Right. And all these different things. Right. Something I feel like the Lord at times, I feel like most of the time we are walking through life colorblind to the Spirit of God. And so we're actually walking through life in a way that's just gray, or that's just the color shade that's blue. Like that's always been blue. And then the Lord.
And we blame the color.
We blame the color. And so like I don't know if you ever watched New Girl.
That's really funny.
If you've ever watched New Girl, like there's a scene where Winston realizes he's been colorblind his whole life.
Yeah, I saw it.
And
it's funny.
You like that show, bro?
Yeah.
He's wearing like green shoes. He's like, what color are your shoes? And he's like, they're brown. He's like, if those are brown, what color are you, Winston? And he goes, right? And so like that thought process. And then he puts on the color shades, and he's like, oh. Well, when he realizes that there's actually so much more color, so much more light than what he's literally been living in it.
Well, that's like you're putting your faith, what you're describing as, you're putting your faith in your own eyes.
Yes.
Right? Like you're putting your faith in your own ability to.
And I can show you with what I do that your eyes are not going to work for you. And it's so easy for me to do.
Show us.
It takes
do you got one more?
Oh, you want to do one more?
Let's do one more.
I'll show you like this here. Did I ever do the thing with the marker where I drew?
I don't know. Did you?
Let's find out.
I mean, that's probably
you did it to the waiter, but
yeah.
I
don't know if you ever put your hands out like this, flat. Yeah, bring them up just a little bit. Do you use your? You said you weren't right. You were right-handed.
I am right-handed.
Yeah. So you used your left hand earlier. Though, make a fist with your left hand and get rid of your right hand. I'm going to draw something right here on my hand. I'll draw a little X right here. Can we see that?
See it? Everyone see the X?
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Watch the X. I'll do this really slow. Watch the X. If I take it like this and I pull, you see it go? Watch. Did you feel anything?
Mm-mm.
Did I touch you?
No.
No, open your hand. You're like emotionally.
You gotta show your hand.
I think that's the biggest thing, man, is that people, people have this.
Y'all still don't know.
We believe, we really do believe in what we choose to, you know what I mean? We're not living our. I love that there's no greater lie than the lie you tell yourself, because we really convince ourselves of whatever we want to believe, and people are pulling it out of the air, and that goes with kind of what I was saying in my philosophy about this. And I think having a foundation is just the most important thing.
Because the storms are going to come.
Yeah.
There's going to be life where death comes, where we lose loved ones, where we encounter someone that that was just a jackwagon.
Yeah.
That he's just a jerk. Man, why are you so mean, right? Like, there's going to be storms of this life. And in reality, if we just... Bro, foundation's everything.
Yeah.
And foundation is everything. Foundation is everything. And dude, the only one that will stand true and has stand true is the timeless King of Kings, Yeshua, Jesus, Him, the Lamb of God. Like, that is the way, the truth, and the life.
The most daring.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the ballsiest person. Like, if this is not a God, this is the ballsiest person in history. To claim that He is God, one.
Yeah.
And to claim that there's no other way to God but except through Him.
And then to somehow be murdered.
No, and I'm gonna read this. This is Psalm 22, bro. And I don't know, have you ever read Psalm 22? So I'm gonna read. This is hundreds of years.
I just love that he still has the X on his hand.
I'm gonna keep this, bro.
Put it under your pillow. Tomorrow I'll be there.
Tara's gonna be like, "Did you hang out with Joel again?"
Yeah, funny.
Listen to this, bro. This is Psalm 22. This is hundreds of years before Jesus came around. Okay.
Yeah.
My God. This is written by David. My God, why have you abandoned me?
Right.
Why are you so far away when I groan for help? Every day I call to you, my God, but you do not answer. Every night I lift my voice, but I find no relief. Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you rescued them. They cried out to you and were saved. They trusted in you and were never disgraced. But I am a worm and not a man. I am scorned and despised by all. Everyone who sees me mocks me. They sneer and shake their heads, saying, "Is this the one who relies on the Lord? Then let the Lord save him. If the Lord loves him so much, let the Lord rescue him." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yet it hasn't clicked yet. Yet you brought me safely from my mother's womb and led me to trust you on my mother's breast. I was thrust into your arms at my birth. You have been my God from the moment I was born. Do not stay so far from me, for trouble is near, and no one else can help me. My enemies surround me like a herd of bulls. Fierce bulls of Bashan have hemmed me in. Like lions, they open their jaws against me, roaring and tearing into their prey. My life is poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax melting within me. My strength has dried up like sun-baked clay. My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You have laid me in the dust and left me for dead. My enemies surround me like a pack of dogs. An evil gang closes on me. They have pierced my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. My enemies stare at me and gloat. They divide my garments among themselves and throw dice for my clothing. This is Psalm 22, bro.
Yeah.
And you know how this starts? My God, my God.
Yeah.
Why have you abandoned me?
Yeah.
So when Jesus is on the cross, so this is what you can believe.
Yeah.
You can stand here today and you can believe that Jesus. First of all, it's just crazy to me. You know, a lot of people are like, "Oh man, Jesus really felt abandoned by God." He probably felt that way on the cross. It's a great mystery that God's Son would be on the earth.
Mm.
But it's hard to look at something like that hundreds of years before. And for Jesus to be on that cross, and he said very few things on that cross. He said, "I'm thirsty." It's on there.
Right.
He said,
"Surely you'll be with me in paradise."
Yes. He spoke to the thief. People mocked him and said, "Aren't you the king of Israel? Why don't you get yourself down from that cross?"
Right.
His hands and feet were pierced. This was written by David, bro. David's feet and hands were never pierced.
Right.
That was never a part of his story.
And that wasn't a that wasn't even a thing like that with torture aspect, right?
And then his garments, being raffled with lots, and the way Jesus chooses the words he chooses to say on the cross, bro.
Right.
Talk about a magic trick.
Yeah.
He by the way, I'm sure that when people heard this, people heard Jesus on the cross say, my God, why have you abandoned me?" They didn't think twice about it. They're like, maybe the teachers of the law probably
they talk about
wait
it.
Wait a minute. Why is he saying that?
Yeah.
Bro, I promise
Said
you.
the exact same thing from hundreds of years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then I promise you that these
prophetic.
guys were like, he dies. This is the way I picture the story, because it's a real story. He dies, then he goes, or they probably go like and start talking about what happened. Damn, man, that guy Jesus died. They picked up their Torah at the time, not Bible.
Right.
And then read Psalm 22 and go, wait a freaking minute.
Dude, that I've never heard it like that point of that's really true, yeah. Because there's a lot of prophetic things like that of knowing ahead of time things that we're gonna that we're gonna come and all of this, and it blows. That stuff has always blown my mind that people deny the kind of validity that we're talking about,
bro.
And there's all of this stuff, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, there's a whole story to it. I actually think it might be in the book Not Enough Faith to Be an Atheist,
right?
That talks about like the aspect alone for Jesus to fulfill one prophecy would be like you finding a quarter in a stack of 1,000 quarters. Well, Jesus, I believe, fulfilled like 300 and something prophecies. That would be like you filling the entire state of Texas with quarters 1 foot deep. And
no, it's only 12. I think it's only 6 prophecies. For him to fulfill 6 prophecies would be like you filling the entire state of Texas.
The foot deep.
That stuff reminds me though of like doubting Thomas, that I needed to see that amount of validity before so it makes me feel like I could it's the fact that blessed are those who have not seen it yet still believe. Like I wish.
Come on, bro.
Is that what you were gonna say?
Yeah.
Because I wish that That's the thing, though. If you're seeking for these things, they're not just there; they're really there. And so I wish that I didn't have to. I wish I would have been able to just say, because the actual evidences of seeing God's work in your life and around you, and seeing God shine through people, that you're like, those are Christian people, and you just see, what is it that they have? Well, I'm a Christian, and all of these things, or just the evidences of creation around us, and how you look at things like how windshield wiper was designed, but it has flaws. A banana was clearly designed, and it it has no flaws.
For bananas.
You know what I mean? But there's so many aspects of things like that, like the human eye versus a windshield wiper is actually a better thing.
Upside down.
Yeah, we have this ability to where our brain flips it, and it lubricates itself the eyes and all of this, and it's still not as. To say there was no designer of the windshield wiper in the windshield would be ludicrous. But to say there's no designer of an eyeball,
there's no designer for a butterfly.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like these things that are so
talk to me about evolution with a butterfly.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so it takes all of these things where you see the validity of God in all of those things, and yet I personally, and I think a lot of people. Because as we're living in an age of information and wanting to feel like we know everything, we need things like these prophecies and these things that to us. And I wish I didn't need it to be able to.
So what I believe,
I think we all need
it's
it.
there.
And I think that's a fallacy of like people who think Christians.
Now I can't believe I needed it. Now I'm like I didn't need it.
Well,
but you do. But you do, because I think God. I think God knows, like, the fact that Jesus said those words.
Yeah.
And then we go back and read it. I think God knew.
Yeah.
And
my wife is blowing up my phone. I must be.
Hey.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Let's pause it for a second.
I'm sorry.
Let's pause it.
My bad. Guys, this was great. Oh my gosh. This was so nice. Dude, this could be going and going and going and going. We should do another one, like for real.
That would be really fun.
Love
that. It's so fun.
But man, I feel like you talking about like foundation stuff. I felt very similar to you, to where I'm like, God, why do I feel like I need all of these things for me to like believe in you, right? For me to see the truth of who you are. And I believe this. When I was 16, when I lost my best friend, right? That moment was the moment that I believe my faith went from my parents' faith to my own faith. Because it was the moment where I was like, God, if you really are a God that's a protector, if you really are a God that's a healer, if you really are these things. And I started to name these things that my parents have told me left and right. But in that time was when I made a decision. Am I going to believe about this God that my parents have talked, that I was raised in the church about, all of these things? Or am I going to go right and I'm going to walk away from all these supposed truths that I've been told and spoken? And I've seen miracles, I've seen healings, but I've also seen death. And so there was these moments that I think I was 15. My friend was 17, actually, not 16. I said 16 earlier. He was 17, and I believe I was 15, turning 16 there soon. And when it happened, it made the decision of like, I believe those revelations that are compiling for us are actually the moments that we continue the foundations of truth that we stand on when the storms come. Because when those things come in, because in reality,
because you have to have defenses to it. You have to be able to.
I have to have walls. I have to have windows.
That's
I have
really
to have a
good.
roof.
Because there are things where there are real intellectual people who can come with really good, strong points that you have to be able to combat to where you can protect yourself and you can make them think even deeper than the direction they were probably going. You know what I mean? And it's like, it blows my mind too that you come from a place where you don't come from that background, because Joey and I do. That can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Oh, yeah.
But it's definitely wild.
Well, I identified as agnostic at some point. I was agnostic.
I never used that word, but I definitely was agnostic as well.
I was like, and I made fun of like the God thing, and like I made fun of marriage. I made fun of all those things.
Right.
And then life has had a very gentle way. Thank God, a gentle way in my life to prove me wrong. You know what I mean? But I wanted to read this, bro, and just I feel like this is what we've been saying this whole time. This is Matthew 5, verse 3. It said, God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for Him. Another translation is poor in spirit, which really means that you realize you need something, right? It says, God blesses those who are poor in spirit and realize their need for Him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses. That's what I saw in you, by the way. Right. But you have poverty of spirit. Like good. Like people think that's a bad thing. You know what I mean? God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. By the way, I love that one, because the way we hunger and thirst for justice is we want justice for for what somebody else does. God, judge them. Right. You know? And it's like, but this is saying those who hunger and thirst for justice, they will be satisfied. This means something different. You know? God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. And that's the one that I love, because it's like, maybe if you don't see God, and people don't really want to put the responsibility on themselves.
No, right? That's so true.
Maybe if you don't see God, it's maybe because your heart's not pure. So go you know, and nobody's gonna tell you that, but I will tell you, because I don't care if you hate me. Like, maybe go and figure out if your heart's not pure. You know what I mean? Like, it goes back because at the end of the day, it's you know, you can't judge the earth. You can't judge God and never put yourself on the same seat of judgment. Right. And have the same scrutiny over yourself. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's and like, I think that's a problem that like some people think that that Christians don't have that scrutiny. No,
my thing is like, just don't stop seeking. Don't stop asking questions at the very minimum. Yes. At the very minimum, you know, don't let the distractions that are so prolific. You know what I mean? Don't let so many distractions around us distract you from what is possibly maybe there. And if it's maybe there, leave that maybe open a bit, because the hard truth is that you're not just gonna die. It could be tomorrow. My sister was 7. Your friend was 16. You know, it could be It could be a light falling. I mean, you know, and then it's like you didn't. Who's prophetic now?
I mean, it makes me think of the people in West Palm Beach who were sleeping in their apartment and the building just collapsed in the middle of the night. It could be a sinkhole that suddenly appears right below us. You know what I mean? You said something really powerful, bro. And this is the last thing I'll say. When you are agnostic or atheist, you are writing off the possibility of maybe. And that's a really daring thing to say.
At best.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because what I'm claiming is there absolutely isn't nothing.
Right. Like, there's too much evidence to support that there isn't nothing.
And then for an agnostic, I'm going to be even more daring and say, well, you acknowledge that there's something, but you don't know, and I'm willing to put my bet on this guy. This is my runner. This is my if we had horses running in a race, I'm gonna put my chips on this guy because of all. And I could list the reasons, right? But if you don't, you're really saying there's no possibility of maybe. That's insane.
And I'm going to live in my distraction. Yeah. I'm going to live in my things around me that give me temporary. And the temporary pieces is so minuscule. Like, dude, you would think somebody like me who's doing television stuff, if that's what you want to do, that you'd be like living on the high life, and that none of it. Ugh.
I couldn't wait, bro. I couldn't wait for you to be on this podcast and tell people that.
Yeah. The fact that literally none of that is the answer. And I know the most, some of my close friends are some of the guys who've tapped into being viewed by billions with a B, views, billions of views on Facebook. These guys, some of these friends of mine, they have billions of views. They have 20, 30, 40 million followers on social media. So I know all these people, and I know that you're either living in the distraction, which that's mostly what it is. You're living in the distraction and just not thinking about the realities of the world because you're living in this temporary distraction. And it's so easy to get fooled by it. But that's what it is. And I don't just owe it to myself, but once you have kids and you have family and everything, you owe it to everybody around you and the ripple effect of the influence on the people around you that you're influencing. That you could be negatively impacting people around you down the wrong path and all sorts of. I mean, my gosh, we have such a responsibility.
Come on.
And it's like, all of us as people, especially as guys, whenever you're a charismatic guy that has anything that people go, oh, what does that guy got going on? You know what I mean? You owe it, man. Your words have power.
Bro,
that's a powerful word, bro.
That word is what's so funny. I wasn't even going to say it, but you said responsibility. I feel like most humans, we struggle. This is my last thing. We struggle with taking responsibility.
We got to get my boy to
Tahara. This is why I believe why is because it started in the garden, in the moment with Eve, with the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. In that moment, the Lord addressed Adam.
Right.
And he said, what's going on? Like, what's happened? He said, it was the woman that you gave me.
Yeah. He blamed
instead
her.
of taking responsibility, he pushed blame to someone. And then Eve, what happened? He says, it was the serpent.
Right.
Instead of taking responsibility, humanity, we shift blame. Well, God, it's so dark. Oh, it's so much in this world. It's all this. We need to take, bro, I think I had the title for this podcast, The Deception of a Distraction.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Distraction. Because, bro, so the 14 Ds.
Alliteration.
and dude, we've hit so much that, man, distractions in this life, even in the famous world, even in the Hollywood, even growing up in the whole, bro, your story's crazy, man. And I really am excited to have you on more.
Bro, I'm so excited.
Thanks, me too, guys.
I don't want to be abrupt because I know your wife is waiting to get to an appointment.
I appreciate it.
This has been such a pleasure, bro.
Such a pleasure,
and
thanks,
the
guys.
conversation and the richness of the stuff that you've said.
And blowing our mind with
just so
freaking
grateful.
magic
I'm
tricks.
going to take this X. I'm going to take a picture of it.
He might cut his hand off and sell it. He might, but man,
we love you, bro.
Thanks, guys. Love you guys too. Thanks.
Thank you for the coffee.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Prolific Podcast. We love you guys. We hope you guys have a blessed day. Remember, go be fruitful. Joel, we love you, man.
Love you, bro.
Be blessed, brother. Woo-hoo. All right.